My roommate came up with a get-rich-quick scheme, intentionally letting fruit that costs $1.50 per pound grow mold, then selling it at a high price on second-hand platforms. But moldy fruit can easily cause cancer. I warned her not to take the risk. If she got cancer, no amount of oranges could save her. Reluctantly, my roommate gave up on cultivating moldy fruit and settled for a steady job. But later, a dorm in our school started collectively cultivating mold, and in just one semester, they made over 300,000 yuan. My roommate, convinced I was blocking her path to fortune, stuffed my mouth and nose with moldy fruit. She left me to choke to death. That 300,000 should have been mine. It's all because of your malice that I'm stuck working odd jobs for a measly 5,000 a month. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day she first vowed to cultivate that moldy fruit. This time, I won't try to talk her out of it. I'm going to watch with my own eyes as she rots and festers in that mold. Whose fruit is this on the floor? It's so moldy it's making me gag. Fruit spoils easily in the summer. It either turns to mush or grows mold, and it always gives off a foul smell. To make matters worse, the dorm supervisor was coming for an inspection today, and the mold from that rotten orange burst open, scattering all over the floor we had just mopped. In my past life, I was too quick on the draw. I just said I'd take out the trash and grabbed it to find a bin. When I got back to the dorm, Yvonne, who had just finished her business in the bathroom, hysterically demanded to know where her orange had gone, and the dorm head, Lola, along with our other roommate, Lynn, both pointed their fingers at me. Dora threw it away. We were actually going to ask if it was yours, but before we could say anything, she just tossed the orange straight into the trash. This time, I gave a firm three-part denial. It's not mine. I haven't bought any oranges since the new year. I always buy my fruit and eat it the same day. Lynn also shook her head, saying it wasn't hers. Lola said through gritted teeth, then it's definitely Yvonne's. She's the only one in our dorm who buys more than she can eat, lets it rot, and never bothers to throw it out. The whole place always ends up smelling because of her. Every time there's cleaning to be done, she gets a stomachache. With how much she loves camping out in the bathroom, you'd think she was a dung beetle in a past life. Seeing that none of us responded, her scolding lost its steam. Which one of you is going to throw this thing out? I said hesitantly. It is Yvonne's stuff. After all, we should probably wait for her to get back and ask. Stop asking stupid questions. If you keep it up, the RA will come for room check. What are we supposed to do if we get points deducted? With that, she reached out and picked up the moldy orange, not even bothering to put on a mask. Just then, Yvonne came back. The moment she saw the moldy orange in Lola's hand, she let out a sharp, piercing shriek. Put my orange down, Lola. What's wrong with you? My orange was perfectly fine where it was. How dare you ruin all my penicillin mold? Seeing the dark blue-green stains all over the floor, she rushed over and snatched the moldy orange away. Another cloud of mold spores burst into the air, and I quickly ran into the hallway, covering my nose and mouth with my sleeve. Are you insane, Yvonne? The dorm supervisor is doing inspections today, and we had everything cleaned up. Now, because of your orange, we have to mop the whole floor again. Lola had no idea that Yvonne had been cultivating moldy oranges since last month, but the only successful batch was the bag she was holding. I even overheard her muttering, one moldy orange for 500, 20 of them makes 10,000. After that 10,000 yuan actually sells on the platform, she's been doubling down on cultivating moldy fruit in the dorm room. The moment we step into the room, we're hit by this overwhelming, sour stench. Beyond the moldy fruit, even more of it is rotting with maggots. The combined smell is enough to knock your soul right out of your body. Our dorm is practically a sewer at this point. Can someone please talk to her? I'm seriously about to puke from the disgust. I can even smell the stink on myself when I go to class. If she wants to make money, why doesn't she just rent a place off campus? The three of us paid for this dorm room too. Yvonne's raking in the cash hand over fist, but we haven't seen a dime for all the trouble. We might gripe about it in private, but none of us would dare say it to her face, because Yvonne is on financial aid, and if we show her even the slightest bit of unkindness, she immediately played the victim card, claiming everyone looked down on her for being poor. In the end, we got called in by the counselor for a talk. The principal lectured us about being considerate to classmates, and the whole school made a big public announcement about it. We couldn't hold our heads up for the longest time. On top of that, there was the time the dorm supervisor said our room had too much trash and was going to deduct points. Yvonne pulled out her poor student status Crying about how she grew up in poverty and wanted to save our discarded junk to sell for money, she begged the dorm supervisor not to deduct the points. She got away with it once, then twice. The dorm supervisor's warnings were useless. After that, even Lola slacked off. With Yvonne around, they figured they didn't have to clean. The supervisor wouldn't dare dock their points anyway. I thought to myself, this is all because of the lack of money, so I pulled some strings and got Yvonne a clerical job paying $5,000 a month, with no more than 36 hours of work per week. I also explained to Yvonne how moldy fruit can easily lead to lung fungal infections and even cause cancer. Feeling both relieved and grateful, she started the job. Not only did she have more financial breathing room, but her dorm conditions improved significantly as well, free from the musty odor that had clung to her for years. She threw herself into her studies with renewed vigor. She soon became the school's official ambassador, earning widespread praise online. However, as the dorm room of the school ambassador, our room faced stricter hygiene inspections. Yvonne had a habit of skipping her cleaning duties, and our dorm heads, Lola and Lynn, complained about me both openly and behind my back. They were bad-mouthing me to Yvonne. Hey, I heard there's a dorm in our school making $300,000 a month selling moldy fruit. That much, honestly, if it weren't for Dora's dirty tricks, our dorm mate Yvonne might be a millionaire by now. Furious, Yvonne quickly checked it out, and sure enough, she found a dorm that had made $300,000 in just half a semester. She only makes $5,000 a month herself, and she instantly felt a pang of resentment. I bought more fruit than they did. And more of it went moldy. If I had managed to sell it all, I would have made well over $300,000. You just had to force me to grovel and take odd jobs for others. You simply couldn't stand to see me doing well. She forced the moldy fruit and putrid, foul water into my mouth and nose. I struggled for air and was choked to death. To this day, I can't forget the feeling of suffocation and that desperate, smothering tightness. Thank goodness I got a second chance. 3. In the air. You could faintly see the floating penicillium mold spores, yet, Yvonne and Lola were shouting and carrying on, completely unconcerned about the mold. What's the big deal about a room check? Even the dorm supervisor would praise me for figuring out how to make money from moldy oranges. Let me tell you, these oranges are worth $10,000. You wiped out all my penicillin mold, so you owe me 10 grand. Lola was stunned. I have to pay you, in your dreams, even if I had the money. Which I don't. I wouldn't buy your rotten oranges. Buy them. I'd have to be out of my mind to sell you the penicillin mold I worked so hard to cultivate. You damaged my personal property. You have to pay me 10,000, and I'm keeping the oranges. Yvonne said that with so much of the mold gone, they weren't worth much anymore, but she could still turn around and sell them for 5,000, no problem. Lola was absolutely livid at her twisted logic. Meanwhile, Lynn was thoroughly enjoying the drama and decided to pour fuel on the fire. Lola, if you hadn't yanked that orange out, the floor wouldn't be a mess. Forget all this. You'd better mop it up now before the dorm supervisor shows up. You'll be in real trouble then. And Yvonne, this is on you too. Why didn't you tell us about the orange sooner? If you had, we wouldn't have touched it. Perfect timing, actually. You just got back from the bathroom and haven't cleaned up yet. Lola's been waiting all morning to make you mop the floor. Lynn is nothing but a troublemaker. Her attempt to mediate only made things worse, and soon the three of them were shouting and hurling insults at each other. They were breathing in and out great gulps of air thick with penicillium mold. I watched, my heart in my throat. Then Yvonne turned her gaze on me. We're all busy in here. Dora, what are you doing out in the hallway? Trying to get out of cleaning duty. I took another 2 steps back. I have rhinitis. There's too much penicillium mold in there. I'd have trouble breathing if I went in. Yvonne lashed out. Stop making excuses. You just don't want to mop the floor. But it was true. A few months ago, there was so much willow catkin at school that I had to wear a mask for months. Sometimes, even the mask didn't help. Staying in a moldy environment like that for too long could easily lead to breathing difficulties. The other roommates were clearly afraid of getting involved, so they didn't dare let me in, but the people inside the room were having a rather unpleasant argument. Yvonne plopped the moldy orange on the table, and Lola immediately started yelling at her to take it out. We just finished cleaning the floor. If you get the room dirty from putting that on the table, you're mopping it yourself. Yvonne wasn't having it. Whatever. I'm on financial aid, and the RA doesn't care about this stuff. Mind your own business. I'm the dorm leader, so it's my job to keep things in order. In my past life, because I threw away Yvonne's orange. She berated me non-stop for 3 days and nights. She even woke me up in the middle of the night to yell at me when she went to the bathroom. Meanwhile, Lola and Lynn played the good cops, telling me to back down for the sake of peace and to just pay Yvonne to avoid ruining the dorm harmony. Now, in this life, without me around as their punching bag. The dorm atmosphere immediately turned tense. Yvonne glared at me from the doorway, thrusting the moldy orange toward me. I couldn't hold back a sneeze. The flesh on Yvonne's face quivered. Get out, get away, don't you dare ruin the mold on my orange. One sneeze from you will cost you 500. I scrambled away. My nose is acting up. I'm going to get some medicine. Behind me, a series of thuds and roars erupted. I went out, tossed my jacket into a trash can, bought a sun hat, picked up some allergy medication at the campus clinic, and then headed back to the dorm. But as I passed the parcel lockers by the campus commercial street, I was startled to see Yvonne's figure. She was carrying an oversized suitcase. I pulled my cap down and watched as Yvonne, phone in hand, hauled out one heavy cardboard box after another from the parcel locker. Inside were apples and oranges, weighing 5 Gene in total. After collecting the parcels, she headed to the campus fruit stall and bought up all the slightly spoiled fruit, going for 1.5 yuan per Gene. Then, I struggled to pull my suitcase toward the dormitory building. In my past life, I threw away Yvonne's moldy orange and ended up having to pay her 10,000, just accepting my bad luck. Afterward, I was still fuming, but then I thought about it. Yvonne was a student from a poor family, and she might have genuinely needed the money, so I decided to buy some fruit as a peace offering. On my way back to the dorm, I saw her struggling with a huge suitcase, trying to be friendly. I walked over. Yvonne, let me help you carry that. Consider this fruit my peace offering. Okay, don't be mad. Yvonne took the tangerine but still looked at me with clear disdain. Fine, you're forgiven, Dora. If you ever have extra fruit you can't finish, you can just give it all to me, you know. I didn't say a word and helped her lift the suitcase, but she let the full weight of it rest on my side. Then she had the nerve to go even further, putting the 2 peaches I bought for 10 yuan right in with her moldy oranges. She kept insisting that my peaches had been sitting on the table for over an hour untouched, so she assumed I didn't want them anymore, but I was clearly busy doing laundry at the time and didn't have a chance to eat them. This time, I pretended not to see and waited until she had moved her suitcase upstairs before going back to the dorm. Meanwhile, Lola in the dorm room completely lost it. Didn't I tell you the dorm supervisor is doing an inspection today? Can't you just wait until she's gone before taking your fruit out? Yvonne wasn't having it. Would you stop overreacting? It's just a bit of fruit, so what if the supervisor sees it? Is she going to forbid me from eating fruit? If she tells me I can't have it here, I'll go straight to the principal and ask if students on financial aid aren't even allowed the freedom to have fruit. Lola was so angry she was sputtering. What does fruit freedom have to do with anything? Seeing another argument about to blow up, I quickly chimed in. With Yvonne in our room, the supervisor won't dock our cleanliness points anyway. Besides, fruit goes bad easily in the summer. It's better for her to take it out early and eat it sooner. Yvonne shot Lola a smug look. See, you're the one always making a fuss. Dora is much more sensible than you. Lola gritted her teeth and dragged a chair across the floor, its legs scraping against the tiles with a sharp, grating sound. 5. By the time the dorm monitor came for inspection, the floor was completely littered with Yvonne's fruit, wrappers, bags, and fruit peels were scattered everywhere, making the floor practically unwalkable. The dorm supervisor frowned deeply. Yvonne, didn't you know there was a room inspection today? Lola, how did you inform your roommate? Lola looked wronged, but the supervisor was having none of it. As the dorm leader, it's your job to keep your roommates in line. I let you off the hook once or twice, and now you're just pushing your luck. Lola cried out in frustration. It's not that I don't want to manage things, but Yvonne just won't listen to me. Yvonne is your roommate. As the dorm monitor, what's the big deal about taking a little more responsibility? Yvonne pouted, her voice full of grievance. Auntie, she had people cleaning before I went to get the package. I thought the room inspection was already over, but when I came back, she told me to clean again. She can't even explain things clearly. So it's not my fault. That's a lie. The dorm supervisor's face turned completely stern. Lola, if you can't handle being the dorm monitor, we'll find someone else to do it. Lola's eyes instantly welled up with tears. Fine, I won't be dorm monitor then. Who even wants the stupid job anyway? After she ran out, Yvonne eagerly stepped forward. Auntie, let me do it. I promise I'll be a good dorm monitor and keep everyone in line. The dorm supervisor was still hesitant, so Yvonne continued, Auntie, just send any announcements directly to the dorm monitor group chat. I'll make sure to relay the message to them right away. The supervisor hesitated, reluctant to give her the position, but with Lola gone, and neither Lynn nor I having the slightest interest in taking over, there weren't many options. The dorm aunt had no choice but to make her the dorm monitor. I almost couldn't hold back a laugh. In my past life, I was the one who had to coax Yvonne into not cultivating moldy oranges in the dorm. It was only after I found her a job that she stopped causing trouble. Now, in this life, letting her take over the dorm monitor's authority directly. Looks like this dorm is completely uninhabitable now. Just before she left, Auntie reminded us, don't leave the fruit on the floor, make sure to put it all away. Yvonne nodded in agreement. I was just thinking that Yvonne was bound to stir up trouble soon, and I needed to pack my things and move out as quickly as possible. Then, a sharp scream pierced the air. Yvonne, what are you doing? 6. Looking up, she saw Yvonne placing the bag of fruit, which had just been spread out on the floor, onto Lynn's bed. Lynn's voice made her jump. A peach fell straight to the floor. What's all the shouting about? You scared me to death, Lynn said through gritted teeth. That bag was just on the floor. It's filthy. Why would you put it on my bed? Yvonne retorted dismissively. What's wrong with putting it on your bed? Didn't you hear the housekeeper say not to leave things on the floor? Don't just stand there. Hurry up and put my fruit away on your beds, or I'll tell the dorm supervisor you're not keeping the place clean. Lynn looked like she was about to cry from frustration. She tugged at my clothes and complained to Yvonne, Dora, you be the judge. What gives her the right to put her fruit on our bed? After saying that, she even gave me a little shove toward Yvonne. Yvonne stood by my bed, clutching her peach, her hand itching to just put it down there. I frowned. Yvonne, you know me, I'm always running the humidifier and whatnot. My bed's pretty damp, so your peach probably won't even get moldy on it. Who knows, maybe. I glanced toward the bathroom. She looked utterly disgusted. Dora, you're so gross. I could barely hold back. She had the nerve to say that to me, when she's the one letting fruit rot and grow maggots in the house. I could only swallow my pride and say, I have dry skin. If I don't moisturize, it gets flaky. Lynn asked from behind me, sounding puzzled. But I thought you had combination skin. It's suddenly become dry. Why else would I be using a humidifier every day? Before Lynn could press the issue, Yvonne went back to putting the fruit on her bed. Lynn wanted to take it down, but Yvonne shrieked, What do you think you're doing? I'll have you know, these peaches are $500 each. You break one, you pay for it. I'm the dorm monitor. I'm in charge here. Even your bed is under my jurisdiction. Lynn stamped her foot in frustration, but Yvonne wasn't having any of it and proceeded to shove another bag of peaches right in front of her. The summer this year was unusually hot, and these peaches wouldn't last 2 days. When Lola came back, her outrageous, self-serving logic was enough to make my blood boil all over again. But after she took the lead and put the peach back on Yvonne's desk, Lynn naturally hurried to return hers as well. She even went so far as to change all her own bedding. After sitting out overnight, the half-rotten fruit bought from the school had turned even mushier, and you could even see a few flies buzzing around it. There are 2 more peaches, weirdly covered in mold. In this hot, humid weather, is my roommate some kind of mold cultivation prodigy? I pretended to lean in for a closer look. Yvonne, are these peaches just going bad, or is that actual mold? Yvonne, who was about to head to class, stopped and examined them carefully, but she only had a vague understanding of it herself. I continued, voicing my concern. I've heard flies are filthy. Won't the bacteria and viruses on them spread in the dorm? Yvonne said reluctantly, then I'll find some insecticide. But won't the insecticide kill the mold too? Panicked, Yvonne finally came up with a plan. She would take the fruit that was attracting the flies to class with her. That way, the flies wouldn't be able to bother her peaches. 7. On the way to class, her backpack looked bulging and lumpy. If you got close enough, you could smell the sour, fermented stench of rotting fruit. Everyone around her was giving her a wide berth. Yvonne even breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness the streets are quiet today, I mumbled in agreement and, once inside the classroom, quickly found a seat far away from her. Dora, why'd you go all the way over there? Come sit here. I set my bag down and smiled politely. No, thanks, your backpack is too big to fit under the desk. It's easier if you just put it beside you and have the seat to yourself. The main thing is, you could even smell the rotten fruit from outside. Once inside, the smell grew stronger and more overwhelming by the minute. If I got any closer, I was afraid I'd gag, staying by the window. At least it's a bit more bearable. Watching her overly cautious manner, I rolled my eyes and let out a derisive snort. She sat in the seat against the inner classroom wall, a spot that was usually a prime location for phone use and was often crowded, but the moment she arrived, a wave of sour, pungent odor immediately filled the air, causing the people who were originally sitting there to cover their noses and frown. "What's that smell? Who brought trash into the classroom? Yvonne, what's in your bag? Did some food go bad? You should throw it out." Yvonne flushed bright red. "What trash? I don't have any food in my bag. Why are you asking me? Is it because you look down on me for being poor?" "But Yvonne, the smell is definitely coming from your direction. Did you step in a sewer or something?" "I did not." "Are you picking on me like this because you think us scholarship students are easy targets? Is this bullying?" The argument within that circle grew louder and more heated. Some couldn't help but shift closer to the windows. With 3 or 4 people crammed into seats meant for 2, the classroom remained noisy even after the teacher arrived. "Didn't you hear the bell? Sit down now. If you're not here to learn, get out. You over there, sit down. Didn't you hear what I just said? And the rest of you, are there no seats? If you don't want to listen, I'll fail you all. And you can go crowd somewhere else." The students muttered in complaint. "Teacher, it smells in here. Save the smell for after class. Now sit down and pay attention." This teacher is notoriously strict. If you fail his class, there's absolutely no chance for a makeup. Everyone had to cover their noses with their sleeves, clothes, backpacks, or tissues to get through the lesson. The teacher's face immediately turned ashen, yet she didn't say a word. Instead, after class began, she started calling on students one by one. She had everyone on edge with her questioning. Soon enough, it was Yvonne's turn. 8. Yvonne was glued to her phone, completely tuned out, and no one around her bothered to give her a nudge. It wasn't until the teacher called her name for the 3rd time. "Is Yvonne not here?" Then she can forget about her participation grade. Only then did Yvonne snap to attention and scramble to her feet. "I'm here, teacher. It's me, Yvonne." The teacher let out a cold laugh. "Not paying attention in class, head down. Who knows what you're doing down there? You're not acting like a student at all. How do you solve the problem I just explained? Go on, tell me." But Yvonne had no idea which problem the teacher was even talking about. With a stern face, the teacher stepped down from the podium and walked straight over to Yvonne. She saw that Yvonne had her overstuffed backpack placed on the aisle-side desk, blocking the way. And the textbook in her hand wasn't even open to the right page. Furious, she snatched Yvonne's book and slammed it down onto her backpack. "Get out if you won't listen." As she spoke, she slapped the backpack several times with her book. "What are you hiding behind that bag? A girl who doesn't study properly, just thinks about playing all day. What future do you think you'll have?" The teacher hit the bag with too much force. Yvonne couldn't bear the thought of her precious fruit getting damaged. She actually reached out and yanked it. The zipper burst open instantly, and a spray of fruit juice and mold spores exploded out. The teacher was the first to get sprayed right in the face. To make matters worse, the teacher has allergies and is particularly sensitive to the fuzz on peaches and dust. In no time at all, the teacher was clutching their throat, gasping for air, and red spots began appearing on their face. Everyone in the classroom was terrified. They were frantically shouting to call 110, with some starting to contact parents, counselors, and 119. "Stay back, get away from the teacher, give her some air." But Yvonne and her exploded backpack were right next to the teacher, with sticky, dripping liquid still trickling down. "Yvonne, take your damn bag and get out of here. Can't you see the teacher can't breathe?" But Yvonne whined pitifully. "The teacher's blocking the way. I can't get out." "Then hand me your backpack. I'll throw it out." "No way. That backpack holds all my worldly possessions. You couldn't afford to replace it if you broke something." The whole class was practically dying of frustration with her. In the end, 2 boys couldn't stand it anymore and snatched the backpack, throwing it out the window. Yvonne let out a shriek, clambered over the desks to escape, completely ignoring the fact that she was trampling over the desks in pursuit of her backpack. After everyone frantically rushed the teacher to the hospital, seeing that the teacher was out of the critical period, they all breathed a collective sigh of relief. Yet, this incident instantly blew up on social media. A freshman at Jiangda University, suspected to be under immense academic pressure, retaliated against a teacher using rotten and moldy fruit. The post came with pictures as proof. And it was indeed an anonymous post from the university's confession wall. I know this freshman. He acts like he doesn't care about anything just because he's on financial aid. He deliberately let things rot in the dorm, making the whole room reek of sour stench. The teacher was practically gasping for air that day, and yet that new student was still obsessing over her rotten fruit. It was so far gone it was oozing and reeking. Has she never eaten a piece of fruit in her life? That thing looked like it was fished straight out of a dumpster. No way. I heard she's actually cultivating moldy fruit, thinks she can sell it online and make a fortune. 9. The implication was so blatant that the teacher even declared publicly that from now on, it's either her or Yvonne in class. They can't both be there. The school had no choice but to revoke many of the special privileges they had previously granted Yvonne. They repeatedly warned Yvonne to stop her underhanded schemes and focus on her studies. They forced Yvonne to apologize to the teacher and issued a school-wide notice before the matter was finally settled. Back in the dorm, while Yvonne was being taken out, Lola gloated. Serves her right. I was waiting for the room to get even smellier before calling the RA. But Yvonne went and dug her own grave first, getting rich from mold. She'll be lucky if she doesn't lose money. Frankly, it's a waste for someone like her to take up a spot meant for needy students. I hope she cleans up the dorm the moment she gets back. Otherwise, we should find a chance to anonymously report her to the dean. Let's see how she handles the embarrassment then. I shook my head with a smile. In my past life, Yvonne actually managed to pull it off and made tens of thousands from it. When Lola and Lynn saw how much money was made from something that cost less than a couple hundred, they were instantly green with envy. They even tried letting fruit spoil in their dorm room on purpose, but their attempt backfired. The fruit just rotted and became infested with maggots. The sight made them sick to their stomachs, and they ended up having to shell out $500 for a cleaner to deal with the mess. After discussing it, the two decided to butter up Yvonne, hoping she'd cut them in on the action. Yvonne had a sharp business mind. She made it clear that any profits from the moldy fruit they cultivated would be split 50-50, or she wouldn't teach them a thing. Since Yvonne never gave them a taste of the benefits, they started scheming against her behind her back. With a click, the door opened. It was Yvonne, back at last. Lola and Lynn turned away in unison, completely ignoring her. Yvonne's face also darkened, looking at us as if we had done her some great wrong, but I didn't care. I even greeted her with a smile. Yvonne, you're back. I noticed the oranges under your desk have started to mold. Shouldn't you be selling them soon? Yvonne lifted her chin and said smugly, don't you dare ruin them. Those are already spoken for. 15 oranges, a full $7,500. I gasped, covering my mouth. Wow, that's amazing. You're really good at making money. Lola and Lynn immediately felt a pang of resentment. Lola's phone buzzed. I glanced over and saw the message from Lynn. Since she's doing this in our dorm, shouldn't she compensate us a little? Exactly. This is our dorm too. Why should she be the only one making money off it? At first, they were just venting their frustrations. But then, Yvonne carefully placed the moldy oranges on the table, and about half an hour later, someone knocked on the door to buy them from her. They even transferred 10,000 yuan to her on the spot. Lola wasn't having it. Wait, that's 15 oranges for 7,500, right? You overpaid her. Yvonne, who had been quietly gloating over her little windfall, suddenly turned cold. What's your problem, Lola? This is none of your business. If you can't say anything nice, just shut your trap. That's a scam. It was only 7,500, and you squeezed an extra 2,500 out of them. He gave it willingly. Who asked you to stick your nose in? Lynn chimed in, putting on a shrill, righteous tone. Yvonne, we're not butting in, but pocketing an extra 2,500 like that is fraud. Plain and simple. What if they report you to the police? Think of the scandal if word gets out. We're only saying this for your own good. Penny wise, pound foolish. Hurry up and give the money back. Yvonne shrieked in a sharp voice. What the hell do you know? It's a lot of work cultivating these oranges. What's wrong with him paying a little extra for my effort? It's none of your business. With that, she turned to the buyer and demanded, you tell me, did I swindle you out of your money? The man glanced at me, then immediately looked back. No, not at all. I have a high demand for mold. Consider this a deposit. Keep the change. Just sell me any more moldy oranges you get in the future. Oh, there's another dorm in your school. I've already bought 300,000 worth of moldy oranges from her. But it's still not enough. If you have time, you could cultivate more. I'll buy as much as you have, at any price. Lola and Yvonne turned pale with shock. 10. They saw Yvonne's dorm room filled with moldy fruit experiments. She wouldn't even throw out the ones that had completely rotted and liquefied, clinging to the hope that she'd find a way to sell them for a high price someday. They were all green with envy. They secretly followed Yvonne's lead in making moldy fruit in the dorm. I happened to return to the dorm once and saw Yvonne, Lola, and Lynn starting to argue again. All the moldy fruit in this dorm is mine, if it weren't for my mold spores. How could your fruit have gotten moldy? I haven't even charged you a mold transfer fee, and you dare to raise your voices at me here. Yvonne, are you even listening to reason? The dorm room isn't yours alone. What business is it of yours if we want to grow mold on our own fruit? Why do you automatically assume any mold has to be your fault? Exactly. If you have a problem with it, then don't mess with moldy fruit yourself. You're the one insisting on doing it in the dorm. So you have no right to criticize us for doing the same to you. After that, the atmosphere in the dorm grew even more tense. The conflict even spilled over to me at one point. They all started messaging me privately, trying to get me to pick a side, and Yvonne's offer was especially enthusiastic. Dora, team up with me on the fruit. I bet we can outdo them. I'll sell you one of my moldy fruits for $4.99, and you just split the profits with me. Meanwhile, Lola and Lynn, afraid Yvonne might actually lure me over, went so far as to offer me the mold for free, on the condition that I join them in isolating Yvonne. But honestly, I'd been wanting to pack up and get out of that dorm for a while now. Unlike them, I haven't been going back to the dorm much at night lately. I've pretty much packed up all my things. I've also spoken with the dorm supervisor and my counselor to complete the off-campus housing paperwork, I had to say in the group chat, with great reluctance. I have rhinitis, you see, there's too much penicillin in the dorm, and I'm not feeling well. I've already moved out, so I can't join you all in making a fortune. When they saw my message, they completely lost it. They went berserk in the dorm group chat, screaming hysterically that my bed space was theirs. Sometimes they'd draw a line down the middle, and other times they'd deliberately encroach on the other's space just to start something. The rotten fruit situation was heating up. They even started sabotaging each other's moldy produce. To guard against each other, they even brought the fruit to class. The three of them were practically marinated in that sour, putrid smell. Even from a distance, I could catch a faint whiff of it lingering around me. Looking at their bulging backpacks, I felt nothing but a mix of nervousness and excitement, because, in a moment, it would be calculus class. And the counselor was bringing the principal and other calculus teachers from the school to observe. The moment the calculus teacher entered the classroom, he caught a whiff of a strange odor. You boys in the back, take that trash out. What's rotting in here? It's such a pungent, foul smell. As she spoke, the teacher fanned the air in front of her nose. However, as other teachers entered the room, the sour, foul smell didn't dissipate but instead grew stronger and more pungent. The calculus teacher's expression grew increasingly grim. For such an important lecture, this odor was utterly ruining her professional image. The teacher wasn't having it. Despite the sweltering summer heat, she ordered the students by the window to open it wide for ventilation. Then, to showcase her teaching results, she had the students stand up one by one to answer questions. When it was Yvonne's turn, she didn't fall behind this time, but to everyone's horror, Yvonne let out 2 sneezes in quick succession. With her final sneeze, 2 worms shot out of her nose and landed on the neck of the counselor sitting in front of her. The counselor felt an itch on her neck. When she reached up to touch it, she was horrified to find a wriggling, squirming maggot. An ear-splitting scream left everyone in the classroom frozen in shock. Shuddering with revulsion, the counselor bolted for the door. Yvonne sneezed again, lost her balance, and tumbled right into her chair. The backpack hanging behind her, which she had left open to air out, erupted. A mushroom cloud of penicillin powder burst into the air, and the sheer force sent a dense swarm of tiny bugs scattering down like a grotesque, insectoid snowfall. The entire class was utterly horrified. The bugs exploded. Gross. Ah, a bug crawled down my neck. Someone help me. Holy crap. Blah. The entire classroom emptied out as everyone stampeded toward the restrooms. The principal's face turned deathly pale, his hands trembling as he called the police. Yvonne seemed completely petrified, letting the bugs that sprayed from her backpack fall all over her. One by one, they crawled and spread across her hair, nose, face, and even her body. It took a long moment before she let out a terrified scream. No one dared to go near her. When she burst into the restroom, her classmates treated her like a biohazard, trapping her in a stall. Some people fetched water and poured it down from the top of the stall, but when they saw the bugs washed out by the water, they screamed and fled the building. Lola and Lynn were also deathly pale. Their backpacks fell to the ground in the chaos. The moldy fruit inside spilled out. The panicked classmates, without a word, shoved them into the bathroom too, ignoring their frantic pounding on the door and refusing to let them out. A chill ran down my spine. I felt utterly revolted, as if my whole body were crawling with insects. I rushed back to my rented room and showered for 2 hours, but that sickening feeling and the mental images just wouldn't go away. 11. By the time our class group chat announced classes were resuming, it was already Monday of the following week. That specific classroom and the entire building had been sealed off and disinfected. The teacher even went so far as to move the entire class to a different classroom. Yvonne's actions had a terrible impact, and evidence of it was all over the dorm room. It said that when the principal and the counselor went to inspect the dorm that day, bugs were crawling all over the walls. The screams from the girls in the entire dormitory building were practically deafening. The principal's attempts to suppress the matter were futile, ultimately attracting a flood of reporters, Education Bureau officials, and even the National Health Commission, all vying to cover and investigate the story. Schools across the board faced rigorous and stringent inspections. The level of care and support for students from impoverished or financially struggling families also saw a significant increase. More importantly, there was a renewed and decisive focus on student mental health, with the firm goal of preventing any incident like the Yvonne case from ever happening again. Yvonne was placed under close observation, had points deducted, and the incident was recorded in her file. Later in class, even after she returned, her classmates kept their distance. The entire row and column where she sat were left completely empty. Lola and Lynn sat in the very back of the classroom. They were also ostracized, but no one felt sorry for them, as their presence kept reminding everyone of the shadow cast by the moldy fruit incident. A classmate who sat nearby, burdened by severe psychological trauma, had taken to neurotically stuffing their 3 backpacks with fruit crawling with maggots. This made the trio's lives utterly miserable, and their academic performance suffered significantly as a result. A shiver ran down my spine. That day, as I was returning to my rented room, I saw someone blocking the path ahead, sensing my presence. She crushed something in her hand. A puff of mist exploded into the air with a pop. I took a step back. I was afraid it was Yvonne coming for me again, but to my surprise, the person was Lola. I breathed a sigh of relief. Lola, what are you doing here? Lola stood frozen for a long moment before slowly walking towards me. Dora, I should be the one asking you that. What are you doing here? Something felt off about her question. I'm going back to my apartment. Shouldn't you be in the dorm with the rest of us? When did you move out? You didn't move out in your last life. My heart sank. I wanted to run, but it wasn't just her. Yvonne and Lynn were lurking in the shadows too. Dora, this is all your fault. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be ostracized by the whole class. You're renting a place outside anyway. Why won't you just let me use it for my moldy fruit project? You're sabotaging me on purpose. I didn't dare stop for a second. Sprinting frantically towards the crowded area, spotting a parked taxi on the road, I jumped in without a word and told the driver to take me straight to the police station. Meanwhile, Yvonne and the others chased after the car, hurling curses. The look in their eyes was chilling, as if they wanted to skin me alive. Seeing that I was about to get away completely, Yvonne then set her sights on a child eating at a food stall next to her. A chill ran down my spine. Stop the car. Stop it now. Before I could finish, the driver cursed, got out, and swiftly tied the person up. He pulled out his phone and called the police. Hello, I'm Dee Hitman. Wait, no, I've apprehended 3 individuals exhibiting severe mental distress. They pose a significant threat of violence to the public. The driver then recited a string of addresses. Yvonne was quickly taken away by the police. Before they left, they stared at me with a chilling intensity, in their pursuit of profit. They had secretly cultivated large quantities of moldy fruit in a warehouse at the school's corner, committed assault, and even plotted premeditated harm against me. They were sentenced to 6 months in prison. Before being incarcerated, it was also discovered that their prolonged exposure to the moldy fruit had caused a fungal infection in their lungs, leading to breathing difficulties and coughing up blood. There were even early signs of a potential cancerous transformation. Their family was never well off to begin with, and these illnesses were the last thing they needed. When I saw them again, the light had gone out of their eyes. I only heard that after their family scraped together every last penny to cure the three of them, they arranged for deep hypnosis to make them completely forget that entire period. Later, Yvonne, Lola, and Lynn's memories returned to their first year of high school. Starting over from the first year of high school, they had to relive the Gaokao all over again. As for me, after graduating from university, I moved to another city to pursue a master's degree, continuing my own life, completely severing all ties with them. Story 2, I'm a total homebody, but who would have thought this would save my life, allowing me to survive in a zombie apocalypse. To continue. Because I always struggled with game controls, I thought it was due to my small house, so I bought the empty house next door. After all, my parents' inheritance is enough to last me 2 lifetimes. I connected it to my original house, but to fulfill my childhood dream, I hired a top designer to renovate it, using only the highest quality materials. The living room is transformed into a gaming room, and to prevent power outages from interrupting gameplay, solar panels are installed. By chance, I learned about solar-powered lights, solar chargers, and other gadgets, so I decided to get them all. As for the other rooms, except for the bathroom, they can be converted into a snack room and a storage space. Stock up on long-lasting food, supplies, and clothing, but snacks like chips and cola are a must for a homebody. As for how to purchase them, I'll leave that to the designer. Me, what? Can't do it. Add more money. Designer, got it, will get it done right away. This also makes it convenient so I won't have to go out anymore. Seeing sunlight would be the death of me. Please, designer, make the entrance hidden online so it's not easily discovered. After all, I've wanted a secret base like this for ages. Having no worries about food and drink while being able to enjoy oneself is a little world of one's own, which is truly appealing. After giving the necessary instructions, I obediently waited for the completion. However, such a large-scale renovation must have caught the neighbors' attention, and I really don't want to deal with those complicated neighborly relationships, so I told the workers to carry out the renovation quietly. Me, what? No way, I'll pay more, but there's bound to be some noise during renovation. I don't care, let them figure it out themselves. No choice, money talks, I can do whatever I want. I hope the renovation progresses faster because I can't wait to see my dream mansion, hee. But due to the numerous requirements and it being a major client, the project took a full 2 months to complete. I finally got to visit the house I had been looking forward to for so long. It uses one-way mirror glass, which not only provides sound insulation but is also of such high quality that even a cannonball couldn't shatter it. The house has thick soundproofing, so even if you were to have a dance party inside, not a single sound would be heard outside. This house also comes with the special feature of staying warm in winter and cool in summer. Snacks, drinks, and long-term storage food supplies, as well as clothing, have all been fully prepared. Considering there might be some frozen products, I emptied the 2 originally packed large refrigerators to store all the purchased items. As for the original contents, if they're still edible, eat them, if not, just throw them away. But it still feels too wasteful. So I had no choice but to use the freezer I had originally prepared for storing a snowman. I really don't know why I thought of storing a snowman before. Probably my brain was fried. Put everything in, but there's still a part that doesn't fit. I think I should be able to finish it all today. The designer considered that from the original 1 door and 5 windows, now there's only 1 door and 1 window. There might be a lack of oxygen, so special ventilation ducts were built. Not only do they ventilate, but they're also equipped to block all polluted air and some odors, with functions like air purification. Even if I don't go out, it's impossible to never see the sun for a lifetime. If that were really the case, I'd be almost like a vampire. They somehow got their hands on an artificial sunlight system that mimics the sun's illumination and radiation, allowing plants to survive under it. Hearing this, I went online and ordered vegetable and plant seeds to see if it really worked as they claimed. The entrance to this secret room was hidden behind the thickest leather-bound book in the row of bookshelves in my old house's study. Simply moving this book aside reveals a keyhole. Inserting and turning the key brings up a device resembling a fingerprint lock. Just place my fingerprint to open this secret room. Only I can open it to enter or exit, even if others have the key. Without my fingerprint, they still can't get in. Great. Truly beyond expectations. As expected of a top-tier designer, I'm very satisfied, though I do think the designer went a bit overboard, building this house like a fortress. Do they really think my money grows on trees? But I didn't fuss over it. After all, Money is no object for me, the game room is all set up, so my old gaming equipment definitely wouldn't match. So I went online and ordered a brand new set of gaming gear. A game room should look the part. I originally wanted to buy everything a game room could have, but the living room definitely isn't that big, so I only bought a dance machine, a claw machine, and a VR gaming console. I also picked up an extra-large TV, perfect for watching shows when I'm tired from gaming, but I have a drama drought and always worry about not knowing what to watch. So I went online and downloaded some popular TV series and novels. These should keep me occupied for a while. Next, I just had to wait at home for the online orders to arrive, but I couldn't let the neighbors find out. If they knew, they'd definitely gossip behind my back, so I had them temporarily leave the items in the abandoned warehouse downstairs. But as a girl, there was no way I could carry everything up by myself, so I hired some people from the security company, quietly brought them up to move the stuff at night, had them place everything in my old living room. And the whole process lasted straight from 12:30 a.m. to 5 in the morning, though we were still spotted. They just murmured a few words about the gaming consoles and didn't say anything more. They only saw the security company personnel, so they had no idea whose place it was. Once everything was moved, I paid double the commission. I definitely didn't want them to know about my secret base. This little world belongs to me alone. After they left, I had to arrange everything by myself. These things were ridiculously heavy, no way I could lift them, so I slowly pushed them in all by myself. Fortunately, the floor height of the secret room was the same as my original study, which made things much easier. After working hard for most of the day, I collapsed onto the sofa, exhausted like a dog. After resting for a while, I cooked and ate some of the leftover food that hadn't been dealt with. After doing heavy work, I'm starving to death, wolfing down my food. After eating, I ran to the arcade again, put on my headphones, and it was another happy moment just for me. Unconsciously, I fell asleep while playing. After waking up, I felt something was off and went to the window. I saw panicked humans fleeing, covered in blood, with people baring their teeth and claws. On the street, cars recklessly crashing, fireworks of explosions from car accidents. Everyone wearing expressions of panic and terror, as if the apocalypse had arrived. I stood inside the house, covering my mouth in horror, my face full of fear. What is happening? Outside, it was like a fast-forwarded apocalyptic blockbuster, yet inside, I couldn't hear a single sound, watching people open their mouths wide, saying who knows what, as if their screams were right beside my ears. Terrified, I collapsed to the ground. Frantically, I pulled out my phone to check today's news. I didn't know what I was praying for. Was I hoping that everything I saw was just an illusion? Looking at today's trending hashtags, #apocalypse suspected to be imminent, zombie outbreak, ## cases of people biting others reported in certain areas, spreading rapidly, ## order collapses, supermarket supplies sold out, the end of the world is really here, degree. I don't know whether to panic in fear or excitement, afraid those biting monsters might devour me, yet thrilled that scenes from TV have become reality. Globally, everything changed overnight, with biting incidents emerging endlessly. Online rumors claim that the government dispatched special police forces in an attempt to eliminate all these man-eating monsters, only for the special police themselves to become man-eating monsters. Areas that were once bustling with crowds have now completely fallen, while those desolate and uninhabited places rarely see the appearance of man-eating monsters. The government has ordered that all areas not yet fallen must implement lockdown measures, and everyone is instructed to stay at home without going outside, undergoing specific monthly checks to prevent the emergence of man-eating monsters. Every month, the authorities will distribute specific supplies, reassuring citizens not to panic and to stay safely at home, as the nation will find ways to rescue those who have not yet mutated. The neighborhood owners group chat is about to explode, with hundreds of messages continuously pouring in, all discussing nothing but the zombie situation and supplies. I don't know who to confide in about my fear, with both parents gone and no real friends to speak of. A bitter smile flickers across my face. Since childhood, my parents were always busy with work, leaving me alone at home, which shaped my withdrawn and melancholic personality. Because of this personality, no one wanted to befriend me. It's fair to say that from birth till now, I've always been alone. I stepped out of the secret room, and the study formed a stark contrast to it. Explosions were ringing out incessantly, and people's screams were right at my doorstep. I was still lost in my own world when suddenly, a piercing scream that echoed through the sky snapped me back to reality. This is no time for grief, no matter what, I must strive to survive. Pressing down my still trembling left hand, I quickly pushed the sofa against the door, not just to keep out the man-eating monsters, but also to guard against the unpredictable nature of humans. As a homebody, I've read plenty of post-apocalyptic novels. In the apocalypse, the scariest things aren't the mindless flesh-eating monsters, it's human nature. Fortunately, I mostly stay indoors with my lights off and curtains drawn. So the other residents think this house is unoccupied. My phone keeps pinging non-stop as messages flood in. Checking the neighborhood group chat again. The chaos seems to have subsided somewhat. The property managers have started organizing teams for inspections and supply management. They said all personnel should go downstairs for inspection to check if there are any man-eating zombies mixed in, and hand over all supplies for unified distribution. Some were dissatisfied, while others expressed agreement. I pretended not to see any of this information. Whether I can survive or not is uncertain anyway. When it's time to be selfish, people should be selfish. Listening to the footsteps at the door, it seemed everyone was heading downstairs to gather. Our security system here may not be top tier, but it's definitely good enough. It promptly shut the gates when the zombies were about to invade. That's why there's now a false sense of peace. And they dare to come downstairs to gather. During this time, I've moved all food, drinks, and supplies into the hidden room. My original wooden door could easily be broken down, and if a large horde of zombies came, the consequences would be unthinkable. Moreover, the mere thought of them realizing someone is here gives me a bad feeling. I've long witnessed the ugliness of human nature, let alone letting them know about the large stockpile of supplies. I turned on my phone's do not disturb mode to reject all calls. Just as I was working hard to move things into the secret room, there was a knock at the door. I'm from the property management. Please open the door immediately and come downstairs to gather for a head count. I'm not stupid. I immediately stopped what I was doing and pretended no one was home, slowly moving closer to the door. Through the peephole, I could only see black clothing. No face was visible. I immediately thought of the surveillance camera at the door and the hidden cameras installed in the corners of the house. Originally, as a woman living alone, I had bought them for safety precautions. Unexpectedly, they came in handy. I checked the footage on my phone but still couldn't see their faces. Judging by their height, build, and voices, they seemed to be two men, one of whom was bald. That made me even more determined not to open the door. I stayed still and silent, pretending to be a piece of wood, but the people outside weren't about to let me off. They kept banging on the door relentlessly. If you still don't open the door, ma'am, we will resort to violent measures. You'd better be sensible and open up. The voice sounded somewhat familiar, but I couldn't immediately place who it belonged to. I still had no intention of opening the door. The person outside seemed to be in a furious rage, kicking the door once before falling silent, as if they had walked away. But I knew it couldn't be that simple. If they knew I was a woman, they must recognize me, and they might also know about my substantial supplies. They would surely return. I usually don't go out, and when I do, I always wear a mask and a hat, because I'm quite tall. People generally can't tell from my appearance whether I'm male or female. Moreover, it's impossible to obtain the residential community's homeowner information in such a short time. So there's only one possibility. Time is tight, so I can only speed up moving things, leave the unimportant stuff behind for now. Take the electric hot pot, flashlight, rope, and kitchen knife, among other things. With a kitchen knife, if something really happens, I can at least use it for self-defense. I also grabbed some food and drinks. Who knows how long the apocalypse will last? The more supplies, the better, but due to my long-term lack of exercise, running around has already drained a lot of my energy. It seems I must improve my physical stamina, otherwise self-preservation will be a huge challenge. After a quick cleanup, I hid in the secret room. As soon as I entered, chaos erupted at the entrance, and I noticed it, keeping my eyes fixed on the surveillance. They brought in more people, and when coercion and bribery failed, they started kicking the door. The wooden door was no match and was easily kicked open. As the crowd surged in, seeing the rice and soda in my living room, they became even more convinced of what those two men had said. I watched the surveillance footage and noticed the security guard. He seemed a bit off. The bald man leading the group started shouting, "Everyone, stay calm. There are enough supplies here to last us a month. Let's first figure out where they're stored." I remember now. He was one of the workers during my home renovation. I found him honest, hardworking, and incredibly outgoing, so much so that even I ended up chatting with him more than usual. He was also a resident in our building, with a son and a daughter, and a wonderful wife, a truly happy family life. Who would have thought that now? What's important is that he might know about the secret room. This makes me feel a sense of crisis. Oh no, damn it, the security guard. He's been grabbed by a zombie. Someone in the crowd shouted, "No, he hasn't," before he could finish speaking. The security guard's eyes turned blood red, his veins bulging and turning a deep purple. He lunged at the woman closest to him. I was right. The security guard had long been on the verge of turning into a zombie. The dark wound on his arm and his ghastly pale face were so obvious, yet they hadn't noticed. Screams erupted as if they had just snapped back to reality, and they frantically scrambled toward the door. In the blink of an eye, the situation took a turn. They didn't care about trampling others, and tragically, lives were lost. Their frenzied rush only made it harder to get in or out, and more people turned into mindless zombies. Among the crowd were inevitably their own loved ones, but to the zombies, they were merely walking chunks of flesh. The man who had been shouting was the first to react. His first action after getting out wasn't to save more people. Instead, I closed the door to prevent more people from going out. Buying myself a chance to survive, watching the surveillance footage, I felt uneasy, but I knew that trying to save them would only mean certain death. In the apocalypse, there's absolutely no room for a savior complex. I had to shift my focus. I needed to plan for my own survival next. By the way, I bought some vegetable seeds earlier. Fresh vegetables might become something we can never eat again after the apocalypse. Thinking of this, I immediately sprang into action. But I hadn't prepared any soil at the time. What should I do? I turned my gaze to the potted plants in the room. Little tree, rubbing hands like a fly, bubble voice. So I pulled it out without hesitation. But I don't know how to grow vegetables. Crying with mouth wide open and head tilted back. I can only plant according to online tutorials. Looking at my results, it should work, right? Ahem. Not to mention how everything I've tried to grow before died. But this time is definitely different. At worst, I'll just try a few more times. I refuse to believe it won't work. The only issue left is my stamina. Maybe one day, I'll run out of supplies. I might have to go out to find food, might have to face those terrifying monsters, might have to protect myself, so improving physical strength is absolutely necessary. But I don't have a treadmill or dumbbells in my room, only some gaming consoles and, wait, the dance mat. That's also a great way to boost stamina, and it can improve agility and reflexes too. For this whole month, I've been dancing, playing games, watching TV, growing vegetables, eating, drinking, playing, and sleeping. My initial attempts at planting were unsuccessful, but after trying a few more times, I quickly identified the problem and finally managed to grow some small vegetable sprouts, due to the security guard's transformation into a zombie last time. The entire neighborhood has now become a living hell. Zombies can be seen wandering the area from time to time. I've also come across survivors, but many of them turned into zombies while searching for supplies, and some never returned. Moreover, with the zombie outbreak, water and electricity have started to be cut off. I can feel the despair of others. Some even went out to meet their deaths willingly. Fortunately, I have ample supplies and water in my house, so I don't need to worry about that. Still, I try to conserve as much as possible, just in case. A massive explosion erupted in the distance, drawing the zombies over there, and catching my attention as well. In the distance, flames burst and thick smoke billowed, making it impossible not to wonder what was happening. Taking advantage of the zombies being distracted, I stepped out of the hidden room to get some fresh air. Staying cooped up inside all day was driving me crazy. By the way, I looked around for anything useful, but found nothing. Amid the billowing smoke, a military vehicle emerged, its roof fitted with a massive loudspeaker, its body visibly armored with thick plating. The armor bore bright red bloodstains, as if it had endured countless dangers to reach this place. Attention everyone, as long as you haven't mutated, you can head to the nearest Zone B, our country's newly established safe haven. Capacity is limited. If you don't arrive soon, we won't be responsible once full. Safe base. What kind of place is this? Soon, some people began to stir, and a few emerged from the building. It was a mother and daughter, looking frail and emaciated, likely having gone without food for a long time, and that woman, though emaciated, still bore traces of her former breathtaking beauty on her face. "Officer, please, save me, I haven't eaten in so long." I'm willing to let her serve the officer. "Just take me to that so-called safe zone." As he spoke, he pulled the woman beside him forward, presenting her to those so-called officers. Ah, how heartless. Are such people even fit to be parents, to sacrifice their own daughter just to survive? Yet those people didn't even acknowledge it and simply drove away. The distant explosions ceased as they left. The woman seemed utterly enraged, cursing loudly, and as if that wasn't enough, she kicked the woman beside her. Is she trying to get herself killed? Doesn't she know noise attracts zombies? There seemed to be movement in the thick smoke again, but I knew the two of them probably wouldn't make it. Sure enough, what emerged from the smoke was no longer an armored vehicle, but a horde of zombies snarling with gaping, bloodthirsty maws. I paid no further attention and went to gather my belongings. I turned my gaze to the money tree. Although the vegetables I planted were making progress, the quantity was still insufficient. And there was a lack of soil. Take the soil from the money tree too, and don't forget the potted plants inside the house. What else is there? Right, where's the protective charm my parents left me? Here it is. Keep your voice down, don't let her notice. Standing outside the door were none other than Bald Brother and the designer Lucian. Their intentions for coming here were all too obvious. They carried sharp knives and were gripping guns in their hands, their expressions fierce. With that meaningful smile, I found the peace charm on the balcony and was just happily putting it on when the two outside barged through the door and immediately shot at me. Due to the bullet's momentum, I fell off the balcony along with the protective talisman in my hand. Thud, blood gushed from the wound like a fountain, staining my clothes crimson, like a blooming flower, dazzlingly bright and scarlet. I died. Without even realizing what had happened, the zombies gathered around at the sound. Yet for some reason, they dared not approach me. My blood slowly spread, staining the protective talisman red. As night fell, the moon gradually rose into the sky, appearing different from usual, more eerie than ever before. When the moonlight touched the protective talisman, it too began to emit an uncanny glow. The intense light illuminated the entire neighborhood, only to plunge it back into darkness in an instant. I touched the blood on the back of my head, feeling somewhat incredulous. Eat, eat. Eat, 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 eat. So hungry, so hungry. Hungry, 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 hungry. Pant, pant, pant. Roar, 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 roar. My mind was instantly overwhelmed by these voices, causing me excruciating pain. Quiet. I clutched my head and roared, and the chaotic noise fell silent in an instant. Only then could I think clearly again, looking at the zombies around me. I was so terrified that I fell to the ground, screaming in fear, "Go away." The zombies collectively took a few steps back in unison, but among the horde, one figure remained unmoved, a male zombie. His clean attire and lack of foul odor made him appear almost human. For some reason, the words escaped my lips before I could stop them. "Are you ignoring me too?" I said. "Go away." The male zombie then took a step back. I was bewildered, replaying what I had just said in my mind. What was wrong with me? What was wrong with them? What was going on? The male zombie seemed to sense my confusion. Click, 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 king, king, you say I am your king. The male zombie slowly nodded, and only then did I notice his breathtaking beauty, with snow-white skin like snow white and thick, jet-black hair. It was enough to make one's heart flutter. The white pupils added an extra touch of innocence and naivety. It made people feel even more delighted. I seemed to realize something and hurriedly ran upstairs. My light and swift body allowed me to reach the top in just a few seconds. I marvel at my body, the much fairer complexion, the slender yet not frail frame, with faintly visible toned muscles. All I can say is, holy shit, that's amazing. Returning to the house, I saw them tampering with my beloved cabin, which filled me with rage. They turned and saw me, first startled, then immediately started cursing at me. "Damn it, you bitch. You scared the hell out of me." This only fueled the anger that was already rising within me, and I strode straight over. Up right arrow, down right arrow, up left arrow, left right arrow, up down arrow, kicks flying in all directions, backflips with spins, dodging swiftly, then unleashing my finger-pointing divine skill, successfully taking them both down. Looking at the two bruised and battered individuals, I couldn't help but feel a bloodthirsty hunger for the blood flowing from their wounds. Suppressing the strange sensation, I summoned a horde of zombies. Preparing to have them devour these two, the zombies downstairs, as if under control, frantically rushed upward in a frenzy. Some climbed the stairs, while others formed corpse ladders, scaled windows, and so on. Every method imaginable was on display, but without exception, they were all extremely fast, and in no time, zombies had surrounded me. The speed was terrifyingly quick. I was never a kind person, and those who posed a threat to me could never be spared. Watching the terrified expressions on their faces, I burst into laughter. They seemed to have just snapped out of it, then burst into tears, their faces streaked with snot and tears. "Don't kill me, we'll confess everything," I scoffed and said. "What do you even have to confess? Don't think you can fool me with made-up stories. I'll tell you everything as long as you don't kill me. Speak now. You have to promise not to kill me first." I lost my patience and waved to the zombie behind me. They watched the approaching zombies and screamed in terror. I'll talk. They're going to kill that male zombie." Before I could figure out which male zombie he was referring to, shouts erupted from downstairs. I looked down and saw that male zombie who looked just like Snow White. TSK, what a nuisance. But I had no intention of helping. How should I put it? I just wanted to say to him, "Bro, check this out." He raised his head to look at me, his gaze vacant, as if questioning why I wasn't helping him. Before he could react, the tall and burly human at the lead launched the first attack, yet, without even moving his head, he merely raised his hand and effortlessly blocked the human's full-force strike. His eyes remained fixed on me, now with a hint of docility. The humans who had been standing still also joined the assault. This time, he no longer looked at me, turning instead to engage them in combat. The zombies behind me are restless, but I won't allow them to go down and help. I stare straight at his figure as he fights against the humans. In the end, he is outnumbered. No matter how formidable he is, he can't withstand the sheer number of opponents. Black, filthy blood gushes from his body in thick streams, and one of his ears is torn off by the humans in the heat of battle. I stood on the balcony railing, looking down, yet I felt no fear. None of that terror of death, so I jumped, leaping into the void, the wind howling past me, the weightlessness enveloping me. Thud, a bloody mess, death once more, another fall, but this time it was by choice. Story 2. In the apocalyptic world, everyone awakened their supernatural abilities. Some could control water, while others could spew fire, and my supernatural ability was taking away the abilities of those named John. Yes, I could only take away the abilities of people named John. 3 years had passed, and not only had I not met a single person named John, but I was also oppressed and bullied because my ability seemed so useless. Later, when I was scavenging for garbage in the slums, I reunited with my best friend who was begging for food. We hugged each other and wept bitterly. My best friend wailed, "Why are other people's abilities so awesome, while I can only change others' names to John?" I was stunned. "What did you say?" After the apocalypse began, I made a living by scavenging for garbage in the slums. I endured the wind and rain every day, sometimes going hungry and sometimes having enough to eat, and I was robbed every now and then. I watched as the skinny man snatched a piece of bread that I had just found. My feet felt as if they were filled with lead and I couldn't move. This was his supernatural ability. The man kicked me to the ground and laughed heartily. There's actually still a useless person without supernatural abilities in this day and age. How have you managed to survive until now? The words I wanted to retort were on the tip of my tongue, but I swallowed them back. I quickly got up and smiled obsequiously. "Big brother, your ability is really amazing. What should I call you? I will definitely save the good things I find for you in the future." "You're sensible. In the future, send the good things to the back of the pharmacy. Listen up. My name is John." I widened my eyes in shock. Johnny. After that damn Johnny left, I couldn't help but burst into tears. After the apocalypse began, plants and animals mutated, and the surviving humans all awakened their supernatural abilities. Since then, the social classes were rearranged according to the strength of the supernatural abilities. Some people had extremely powerful abilities, such as controlling water and fire, while others had ordinary abilities like duplication and telekinesis. My ability was taking away the abilities of those named John. Yes, I could only take away the abilities of people named John. 3 years had passed, and I hadn't met a single person named John. The guy just now was the closest I had ever been to success. But damn it, why was his name Johnny? What use was my useless ability in this apocalyptic world? Before the apocalypse, I was at least a white-collar worker in a big city. Now Anyone could step on me. I didn't know how long I could still survive in this world where the strong prey on the weak. I cursed and was about to return to that drafty garbage station. Just as I stepped out of the alley, I saw that there was a hole in the bag someone was carrying, and a pack of compressed biscuits fell out of it. My eyes lit up, and I pounced on it. Just as I touched the biscuits, someone suddenly rushed over and grabbed the other end. Neither of us would let go. The other person suddenly let out a howl. Please have mercy on me. I haven't eaten for 5 days. I'm going to starve to death. That voice. I took a closer look, and the disheveled, emaciated, and stinky person in front of me was none other than my missing best friend, Anna. Anna, when she saw me, she also widened her eyes. Jill, we immediately hugged each other and wept bitterly. Where have you been? I couldn't find any news about you anywhere. I was captured by a group of people for research. They thought my ability was useless, so they threw me out. Anna told me about her experiences over the past few years while eating the compressed biscuits. It turned out that not long after the apocalypse began, some institutions started researching supernatural abilities and randomly abducted some people. But Anna's ability was so useless that they thought it had no research value, so they let her go. I didn't quite believe this. Could her ability be more useless than mine? I had managed to survive until now, and I hadn't seen anyone whose ability was more useless than mine. I comforted her sincerely. Don't say that. No matter how useless your ability is, it can't be more useless than mine, she retorted firmly. That's impossible. Trust me, no, my ability is really useless. We were still arguing about who was the most useless when a child floated past on the roadside. That's right, this was his flying ability. Anna couldn't hold it in any longer. She burst into tears, with crumbs of biscuits flying out of her mouth as she said, Why are other people's abilities so awesome, while I can only change others' names to John? The hand that was patting her back suddenly stopped. I stood there, stunned. What did you say? Anna was still wailing. Even a dog can guard the house. But what's the lethality of me changing someone's name? Am I going to embarrass them to death? As she was crying, she suddenly seemed to think of something and turned to look at me expectantly. You said your ability is more useless. What is your ability? I felt as if all the blood in my body was boiling. I grabbed Anna's hand tremblingly and shed tears of excitement. Before today, our abilities were completely useless. But from today on, we will be invincible. Anna looked at me and started crying. I just found you. Why have you gone crazy? It wasn't until I explained it to her. She exclaimed, fuck, several times. You can take away the abilities of anyone named John. Are there any activation conditions? I was at a loss for words, because I had never used this ability before. I almost forgot about the activation conditions if Anna hadn't mentioned it. Yes, my expression was a bit complicated. As long as John hits me, his ability will be mine. What are your activation conditions? Anna's expression was exactly the same as mine. She scratched her head. I have to hit someone and shout a slogan. After studying it for a while, we decided to give it a try. I took Anna to the back of the pharmacy and knocked on Johnny's door. Johnny's ability was to make people's legs weak, which was also quite useless, so he wasn't doing very well. When he opened the door, he was eating the bread he had snatched from me. He was a bit surprised to see me. Sister, did you really bring something good for your brother? When he saw that I didn't have anything in my hand, Johnny's expression gradually became lewd. I understand. You want to give yourself to your brother, then I will. He reached out his hand towards me. Before he could touch my face, Anna behind me suddenly rushed out and slapped him across the face. Is your name John? Johnny was stunned by the slap. No, I'm not. He wanted to say that his name wasn't John, but for some reason, he couldn't say those words. Finally, he nodded blankly. Yes. My name is John. Anna and I looked at each other. We were so excited that tears welled up in our eyes. The first person named John, I had finally met him. John realized that he had been hit and immediately became furious. How dare you hit me? He raised his hand and slapped me. The moment he slapped me, I leaned my face forward. Slap, he was stunned. I started crying. This was the feeling. I had obtained his ability to soften people's legs. I immediately tried it out. Johnny didn't realize that his ability was gone until he fell to the ground. By then, we had already fled the scene. After we got out, Anna firmly held my hand and said, You don't have to be so tough anymore. I'll bring you a lot of people named John. We reached a consensus. In this world, strength was the most important thing. We had to collect more and stronger abilities as soon as possible. but I also had my bottom line. I would only take the abilities of bad people. Where were there the most bad people? It was definitely the black factory outside the slums. There were a lot of wanted outlaws gathered there. They locked people with weak abilities in cages and made them fight each other, like cockfights, and placed bets on them. The next day, Anna and I rested and prepared ourselves. I prepared iron gloves for her. And she put a steel helmet on me. Without the protection of the high walls of the slums, there were dangerous mutated animals outside at night. We arrived at the black factory before sunset. I knocked on the door vigorously. To my surprise, the person who opened the door was an acquaintance. Anna suddenly grabbed my arm. Fuck, isn't this your boyfriend? I corrected her, ex-boyfriend. Thank you. Carter only recognized me when he saw Anna. He clicked his tongue twice. Jill. Are you wearing a helmet because you got disfigured? What did I say? You can't survive in the apocalyptic world without supernatural abilities. You were so brave to leave on your own back then. Before the apocalypse, Carter's salary was only 1/5 of mine. He lived in my house and drove my car. He pretended to be hardworking and capable and flattered me to the fullest, until he awakened the ability to make parts of people's bodies grow or shrink. He thought I was just a useless person without supernatural abilities and that I would hold him back, so he immediately dumped me. He also found a new girlfriend who was a good match for him and had the ability to make parts of people's bodies harden or soften. At that time, he put his arm around his new girlfriend and said to me condescendingly, "Considering that you served me for several years, you can follow me too." I immediately slapped him and turned around and left, unexpectedly. When we met again, he was actually working in the black factory. At this time, his girlfriend also came out. When she saw me, she sneered, "Oh, a useless person like her without supernatural abilities can actually still be alive. She must have seduced a lot of men with her body." Before she could finish speaking, Anna slapped her with the iron glove. "Is your name John?" The woman's face visibly swelled up, but she didn't know what Anna's ability was, seeing how bold Anna was. She didn't dare to act rashly. She turned around and angrily hid in Carter's arms. "Honey, she hit me, woo-woo." Carter comforted her tenderly. "Honey, I'll avenge you, don't cry." "John," the woman looked confused. "What did you call me? Aren't you named John?" The woman, "It seems so." Carter looked at us and snorted coldly. "It's too late for you to kneel and beg for mercy now." Before he could finish speaking, Anna slapped him hard, making his face turn sideways, and I immediately followed up, charging forward and hitting the two of them with my steel helmet. The force has an equal and opposite reaction. If I hit them, it could also be considered that they hit me, right? Carter was knocked flying to the ground. When he came to his senses, he hugged his girlfriend and was furious. "Are you too crazy? Are you here to pick a fight? Fine, then I'll let you experience my ability." Just as he was about to use his ability, he suddenly felt something was wrong. His face turned pale in an instant. "What's going on? Where's my ability?" The woman beside him was also panicking. "I don't have it either." Both of them looked terrified. I calmly took off my helmet and waved at them. "You haven't even tried your own abilities yet, have you?" The activation conditions of their two abilities were much simpler. They just had to stare at the part they wanted to change, and they could use it twice a day. So I stared at the scumbag's lower body and sneered. "Soften and shrink." Carter suddenly felt the change in his body. His face changed. He opened his pants and looked inside, then collapsed. "Jill, what did you do?" While we were talking, the commotion we caused had already attracted the attention of the people inside the black factory. Soon, someone rushed straight towards me. "How dare you cause trouble in the black factory? You're courting death." After saying that, the person fell down in front of me. Anna couldn't believe it and said, "How did you do that?" I said, "I used the scumbag's ability. I didn't see anything on him grow or shrink. It did change." I pointed at his head and said, "His cerebellum has atrophied." Anna silently gave me a thumbs up. Some people still wanted to come forward, and Anna slapped them left and right. Slap one by one. "Is your name John?" I then went up and used the principle of the interaction of forces, actively getting myself hit, after dealing with more than a dozen people. Those behind didn't dare to move anymore, and I instantly had more than a dozen abilities in my body. They looked at me like I was a monster and rushed inside one after another. "Boss, someone is here to cause trouble." Anna and I walked inside. A circle of people surrounded us, but none of them dared to get close, until we reached the darkest part. There were cages for locking people all around. A bald man with his upper body bare. His tattoos of a green dragon and a white tiger looking especially terrifying. was wiping a knife. Next to him stood a tall and thin man. Anna was a bit scared and hid behind me. A lackey beside them said excitedly, "Once our boss makes a move, you're done for." The tall and thin man walked over. He looked at us and sneered. "Do you know what my ability is?" I told the truth. "I don't know now, but I'll know soon. I'll know once I take your ability." "Right, obviously." He misunderstood my meaning. After walking around us for no apparent reason, he suddenly laughed at Anna. "Aha ha ha ha, I've never seen such a useless ability before. How dare you come to the Black Factory to cause trouble with such an ability?" Oh, so his ability was to see through other people's abilities. The lackey beside him immediately reminded, "Be careful of the one next to her. Her ability seems to be to make other people's abilities temporarily ineffective." Alas, young man, you're being superficial. The tall and thin man didn't take it seriously. "Let me take a look at her ability." He walked around me while chanting, "Softening of the legs, growing and shrinking, hardening and softening, telekinesis, shooting an arrow 100 paces, sound wave attack." My real ability was listed after those abilities I had taken. The tall and thin man looked for a long time but still couldn't see the end. He was so scared that he knelt down directly. He said to the bald boss, "Boss, let's admit defeat." The boss spat, "Bah, it's just a woman. Are you afraid of her?" "It's not that. I've never seen a person with so many abilities. She's a bug." But the boss didn't believe it. He picked up the knife and came over, and then, he was suddenly slapped by Anna. Half an hour later, I was sitting in the seat where he used to sit, with electricity crackling between my fingertips. No wonder this bald guy could become the boss and make hundreds of people work for him willingly. It turned out that his ability was to control electricity. The most powerful abilities in this world were those that could control natural elements. Before the enemy got close, he could stun them with electricity. There were several rows of people standing in front of me respectfully. There was one row of people whose abilities had been taken away, and another row of those whose abilities hadn't. I waved my hand grandly. "From today on, I am your new boss. This is no longer the Black Factory. We're going to open a public welfare bodyguard company." Anna stood beside me and shouted in a shrill voice, "Those who are willing to stay will be provided with food and accommodation. Those who are not willing will have their names changed to John." Everyone had witnessed what happened to those named John in this world. Without supernatural abilities, one was a useless person. As long as they still had their abilities, it didn't matter who they worked for, right? Some people who had been hesitant immediately nodded their heads vigorously. We're willing, we're willing." Those whose abilities I had taken away were also willing to stay and work as logistics staff in the factory. Anna was having a great time. She whispered in my ear, "Since I was a child, when I watched TV, I thought the eunuchs beside the emperor were very imposing. I finally got to experience it without really becoming one." I beckoned to her, "Come to my room tomorrow, I'll make you feel great." Anna looked at me in horror. She quickly covered her chest. On the second day in the Black Factory, there were indescribable sounds coming from my room. "Ah, it's so big, I can't take it anymore. I like it so much, I want more. Ah, I love it so much." In front of the mirror, Anna looked at her enlarged chest with satisfaction and a rosy complexion. "It's so good. I've been flat-chested for more than 20 years, and this is the first time it's been this big. Hurry up, I also want a curvy butt." Then I used Carter's ability to make things grow or shrink to make Anna's butt curvy. Carter probably never expected that his ability could also be used for beauty and plastic surgery. It was a pity that it could only be used twice. Tomorrow, I still have to slim down Anna's face and waist. The day after tomorrow, I'll give her a perky nose and plump her lips. I've also studied the electricity controlling ability of the bald boss and discovered a new way to use it. "Come on, lie face down." I rolled up my sleeves and patted the bed. Anna immediately lay down on it. I moved my fingers and emitted a sizzling current. "Aren't you always suffering from back and waist pain? I'll give you an electromassage," while humming in comfort. Anna sighed. "By the way, can you discharge electricity from anywhere on your body?" "It seems so. Why do you ask?" "How great it would be if you were a man." Anna turned her head to look at me, her eyes full of regret. I slapped the back of her head. "I think you're really hungry." 6. To transform the Black Factory into John's bodyguard company, we first need to run advertisements. So, after we recuperated, I led everyone to do public welfare work in the slums. We dealt with everything from taking down street ruffians and dealing with mutated beasts to helping grannies cross the road. We also took the opportunity to persuade those who used their abilities to burn, kill, and loot to surrender, don't want to surrender, then change their name to John. Before long, there were more and more subordinates in the factory, and people were spreading the word that there was a mysterious organization that did good deeds without asking for anything in return. And everyone in the organization was called John. I heard that when old people teach children to sing, it goes like this: learn from John, be a good example. Although our reputation outside has improved, with more people in the factory, there are also more disputes. Several people have come to complain today. John and John got into a fight because John said that John is not as good as John. This matter must have been instigated by John, who is from the same hometown as John. My mind was in a complete mess listening to all this. I suddenly realized that this couldn't go on, with everyone being called John. It's completely chaotic. There's no organization or discipline. So, Anna and I gathered all the Johns together. Carter now firmly believes that his name is John. So I had to say, your real name is John, and your nickname is Scumbag John. Then I pointed at his new girlfriend. You're called the Strong Woman. The one with dyed yellow hair is called Yellow Hair John, and the one with an earring is called Earring John. Anna and I gave nicknames to everyone according to their characteristics. Finally, it was the turn of the bald guy. You're called Bald John. Okay, everyone, remember your nicknames. From now on in the company, we'll only use the nicknames, not the real names. After solving the internal conflicts, a subordinate who was working as a security guard outside suddenly stumbled in and said in a panic, "Boss, someone is here to cause trouble." Tisk, I was dissatisfied. Be civilized. We're a regular company. What do you mean by causing trouble? This is called corporate communication. But when I saw those two men who were clearly up to no good and were dressed in black and white, I realized, oh, they really are here to cause trouble. 7. The two men calmly sized up my place and started to complain about the decoration and furnishings, as if this place already belonged to them. It's so presumptuous. Blackie saw our group come out. He asked leisurely, "Which one of you is the boss?" Everyone took a step back in unison, leaving me standing at the front. "Me, you, a woman." Ahahaha. The two of them burst into laughter. "All you men are actually willing to work under a woman. Don't you have any backbone?" My Johns reminded me carefully from behind. "I advise you to stop talking. I insist on talking. Is this woman's ability really that powerful? Can't all of you beat her alone?" The Johns took another step back. Only the tall and thin guy came up and whispered, "Boss, one of their abilities is to control water, and the other is to control fire. They're not easy to deal with." I pretended to be calm and waved my hand. "It's a minor issue." After the tall and thin guy stepped back, Anna quietly leaned in, looking very worried. "They're coming with great momentum. I'm afraid I can't get close to them. I'm worried that I'll be roasted as soon as I go up." I waved my hand again. "It's a minor issue." Anna elbowed me in the waist. "Who are you trying to show off to?" I had to give her a meaningful look. "Don't worry for now. After all, I have more than 20 abilities in my hands now." But to my surprise, Blackie and Whitey didn't let anyone get close at all. Many of my abilities couldn't be triggered, and when I used some ineffective abilities, they even laughed at me. "Is that all? I thought you were much more powerful." "Heh, I'm not going to play with you anymore. After getting rid of you, this territory will be ours." The two of them exchanged a glance. One activated his fire ability, and the other activated his water ability. I held my breath and concentrated. This was the moment. I stretched out my hand and summoned streaks of lightning to strike at them. The two of them didn't take it seriously at all. "Don't you know that a powerful water shield can block lightning?" Just as I saw the huge water shield rise, the two of them showed smiles of victory. The next second, a huge mushroom cloud accompanied by an explosion appeared in the air. When the smoke cleared, Blackie and Whitey lay on the ground, all blackened, emitting a dark aura. "Why is this happening?" I clapped my hands and sighed. "Water is electrolyzed into hydrogen and oxygen, which will explode when it meets fire. Learn math, physics, and chemistry well, and you won't be afraid even in the apocalypse." My chemistry teacher didn't lie to me. Abilities certainly have their strengths and weaknesses, but how to use them depends on the person. The two of them were lying on the ground, and suddenly they got up and started fighting each other. "It's all your fault. If you hadn't failed to get rid of her earlier, would we have been blown up? It's your fault. You were the one who set the fire." The two of them were fighting fiercely. I gave a sneaky smile. Carter's ability is really useful. I just made their hearts smaller, and now they're fighting each other. I waved to Anna. She hopped over and slapped each of them, giving them the name John. after successfully acquiring the fire controlling and water controlling abilities. I was about to close the door with the Johns when suddenly a foot blocked the door crack. Are they here to cause trouble again? Are you also here to? I looked up and was stunned. What a damn handsome face. Before I could say the word, trouble, I flicked my hair directly. Are you here looking for a partner? Handsome guy. 8. The person who came stood tall and had a handsome face. He was wearing a simple and neat white t-shirt, and there was an inexplicable sense of oppression. He smiled distantly. I'm here looking for a job. Are you the boss here? I wonder if you're still hiring. Before I could speak, Anna jumped out first. Yes, you look very familiar to me. What's your name? Handsome guy. Henry. Henry said that he got separated from his friends and it was too dangerous to be alone outside, so he wanted to find a place to stay first. He heard that everyone here is a good person, so he came here. I'm very proud of this. Under my management, the Black Factory now has a great reputation. Henry's ability is to create a clone of himself, an exact copy of him. To be honest, this ability is rather useless. At night, the Johns all gave me the same suggestion. This Henry's ability is really weak. Why should we hire him? But he's handsome. It will cost us more food to support one more person in our company. But he's handsome. We don't have any extra work for him either. But he's handsome. They were speechless. You've taken a fancy to him, haven't you? I was shocked. Is it that obvious? You've been lingering outside his room for half an hour. Suddenly, the sound of the door opening came from the room. I quickly pulled that group of people and fled the scene. Henry is really handsome. Before the apocalypse, I only saw such a perfect guy on TV. The first time I saw him, I felt a rush of lust and fell in love at first sight. Anna also encouraged me to win him over. His ability seems useless at first glance, but it's actually extremely powerful. I was confused. What do you mean? Anna said earnestly. The ability to create a clone. Just imagine, there will be one of him in front and one of him behind, and you can change your size, become soft or hard, and then add electricity. Before she could finish, I covered her mouth. I shouldn't have turned a blind eye when she was addicted to pornographic novels. I'm really starting to feel tempted, but I've never chased a man in my life, so I'm not very confident. I thought I'd use some help. I searched and searched in the ability library and found an ability called I See Through You that I don't know when I acquired. Judging from the name, this ability should be something like mind reading, right? Although it's not very fair. If I can find out what kind of girl Henry likes, wouldn't I have the answer to winning him over? To use this ability, I need to be face to face with the person, so I knocked on Henry's door. He had been out with everyone to exterminate mutated animals for the past 2 days. He had just taken a shower, and the ends of his hair were still dripping with water. He was dressed in a white t-shirt and black pants, looking very refreshing. Boss, he called me politely. Is there something wrong? It's nothing. I'm here to ask about the basic situation of the new employee. Is it convenient? Henry nodded. I casually found some topics to talk about. I secretly activated the ability, I See Through You. How old are you this year? 26. Hehe, it's the first time I've eavesdropped on someone's thoughts. I'm a little excited. The ability was successfully triggered. I took a casual glance and was petrified on the spot. Henry, who was just wearing a white t-shirt and black pants, now appeared to me with his upper body bare, revealing his smooth pectoral muscles. The water dripping from his hair slid down his collarbone. Looking further down, there were his standard 8-pack abs. Further down, there was the alluring mermaid line. I continued to look down and widened my eyes. So big. Henry was a bit confused. Is my age too old? I'm sorry, I didn't know you had such strict age restrictions for hiring. Before he could finish speaking, he suddenly exclaimed, "You're bleeding from your nose." I suddenly came to my senses and quickly covered my nose. I'm fine. It's just dry weather. Then I turned around and ran away. Who could have expected this? I See Through You is not mind reading. It literally means what it says. It's X-ray vision. Damn it. Whose ability is this? It's so exciting. 9. Seeing that it's difficult for me to win Henry over on my own, Anna, who claims to have rich experience, gave me an idea. A few days later, Henry sprained his waist while dealing with mutated animals outside with the others. Under my instruction, the only doctor in the factory took a vacation, and I, holding a bottle of medicinal wine, knocked on Henry's door with ill intentions. He was a bit surprised to see me. Boss, I know a bit about massage. How about I give you a massage? Just as Henry was about to refuse, I added, after all, if you don't get better soon, You won't be able to help us. Henry paused for a moment and then stepped aside to let me in. His room was very small, just a converted storage room. His 1.8-meter tall body lying on the single bed made the room look cramped and made my heart race. I pretended to be calm and started massaging his lean and strong waist. Remembering the method Anna taught me, I cleared my throat. Do you believe in love at first sight? What? I heard that the feeling of love at first sight is like having an electric current running through your body when you see that person. Henry turned his head and gave me a puzzled look at the moment of our eye contact. I secretly used my ability to give him an electric shock. Henry let out a muffled groan unexpectedly, which made my heart itch. I could see that his ears were already red. I asked knowingly, "What's wrong with you?" "It's nothing." He lay back down as if nothing had happened. "Humph, you little rascal. You're really good at pretending." As I massaged his waist, I gave him another electric shock. This time, he endured it and didn't make a sound. "Didn't you feel the electric current just now?" "I didn't feel anything." "Humph, I'm not going to give up so easily." I increased the intensity and pressed my hands hard on his waist. The next second, I felt numb all over my body, went limp, and fainted beside Henry. An hour later, Anna deliberately led a group of people into the room and saw me and Henry lying on the bed together. Henry had his upper body bare, and I had a flushed face. "Oops. I didn't know you were busy." "Everyone, get out quickly." Everyone rushed out in a hurry. Only Henry and I, who had just regained consciousness, stared at each other with wide eyes. He seemed to realize something, and the tips of his ears instantly turned red. He said in a deep voice, "I will take responsibility for you." I was about to say, "Don't get me wrong," but swallowed those words and changed my tune. "That's okay then." Afterwards, Anna asked me how I made such rapid progress and ended up sleeping with him. I was too embarrassed to say that I electrocuted myself and fainted, but at least I've won him over. I vowed to find a boyfriend for Anna too, with her perfect figure that I've transformed. She deserves a young version of Daniel Wu. Forget it, Anna smiled indifferently. I've had enough fun in the past. Now I don't want to waste my energy on relationships. After all, in this world, we don't know how long it will last. 10. After Henry recovered from his injury, he went out with several ability teams to help the slums deal with troublesome mutated animals. Since I just won him over and was really into him, I went with them. The once bustling and lively streets are now in a mess. The ground is cracked, and the glass of the shops is shattered all over the place. Henry picked up a doll from the ground and gave it to me. I don't know how long it will be before these things disappear completely. I looked at the crumbling high-rise building and suddenly thought of the days when I worked in an office building. At that time, the work pressure was high, and I used to complain about the end of the world every day. I never thought that such a day would really come. I really want to work overtime one more time. "Henry, what did you do for a living before?" Henry was taken aback for a moment and looked away. "Just an ordinary job." I didn't ask any more questions. I saw a dusty rabbit keychain in the corner, something that Anna would like, so I picked it up and took it with me. In the evening, the sunset in the apocalypse was also gray. When we got back, Anna was sitting on the rooftop, swinging her legs. I was almost scared to death when I saw her. "Anna," she waved at me as if nothing was wrong. "Jill." I ran up and sat down beside her. "What are you doing here?" "Watching the sunset." Anna pointed to the horizon and said, "Just now." For a moment, it was very much like the sunsets in the past. I really missed the old days when we could go to the amusement park, watch movies, and eat hot pot when we had nothing to do. Looking at Anna's profile, I suddenly realized that I had neglected her feelings these days. Anna's ability is just to change other people's names. If we're not together, she has no ability to protect herself at all and must feel very insecure. Not at all. Anna shook her head directly when she heard my question. "You know, I've always been a slacker. I'd rather lie down than stand, and I'd rather hide than take the lead. Now that you're taking care of things in front, I can be like a pendant by your side. Isn't this my dream?" Moreover, the people who usually stay in this factory are all ordinary people who have lost their abilities. Just like me, I actually feel like I'm back in normal society. Only then did I let out a sigh of relief. I took her hand and said seriously, "If anything happens, you must tell me. You're the only family I have." Anna was taken aback for a moment and then nodded. "I actually do have something to tell you." My heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" She leaned in seriously and whispered in my ear, "Have you actually tried Henry's clone ability?" "Me? I'll try it tonight." 11. Hearing that I wasn't feeling well, Henry rushed to my room in a hurry. It was only when he saw me wearing a cool nightgown and posing artificially on the bed. He was a bit silent. "Jill, I have something to tell you." I waved my hand. "Lie down and tell me." "I'm serious." "Then lie down and tell me seriously." Henry lay down beside me. Before he could say a word, I pounced on him and covered his mouth. "I forgot to mention, there's a rule in the factory: no talking during meals and no talking in bed." Henry looked at me with an unreadable expression. The next second, he turned over and pinned me underneath him, his breathing becoming rapid. I wrapped my arms around his neck and said in his ear, "If you're too tired on your own, why not use your ability?" Henry's body stiffened a bit, and his voice was obviously hoarse. "I don't need to." Before I could say anything else, Henry, as if eager to prove something, it blocked my lips with annoyance. The next second, his hand pulled down my nightgown. The palm pressing on my shoulder was astonishingly hot, and it moved all the way down, taking over territory. I was completely overwhelmed by his fierce attack. All night long, all I could think about was that he was indeed as I had seen. He's not just all show. I had originally thought of using the abilities to change my size, become soft or hard. Goodness, if I used those abilities too, I'd be done for. As dawn was approaching, Henry held me and didn't sleep. I wasn't sleepy either. "You said you had something serious to talk about before. You can say it now." Henry looked a bit helpless. "Isn't this an inappropriate time?" "Why is it inappropriate? We're being honest with each other now." His face immediately turned red. Before he could recover, he heard my next words. "Moreover, you've been scheming to get close to me. Isn't it for this serious matter?" Henry was stunned. I let out a sigh. Henry probably didn't know that in my ability library, there's an ability that can detect the activation of abilities around me. Since Henry came here, he has been creating a clone and sending it out almost every few days, and then coming back during the day. Based on my observations over the past few days, he had no other purpose but to get close to me, and when I asked him what his job was during the day, he told me it was an ordinary job. This precisely shows that his job isn't ordinary. Henry acquiesced. After being silent for a while, he said, "Do you want the world to go back to the way it was?" 12. I widened my eyes. "The world is in the apocalypse. How can it go back to the way it was? Is this a joke? How can it be restored?" Henry frowned slightly and said, "You asked me about my job before. Actually, I'm engaged in genetic research. Since the start of the apocalypse, the country has assembled a group of researchers to conduct secret research, attempting to slow down the process of the world's destruction. Henry and his team have been researching for 3 years, and they have only recently made some progress. The mutation of all other living organisms is caused by human abilities. I don't understand those technical terms either. Anyway, if there are no abilities in the world, then the entire ecosystem will gradually return to normal." Henry noticed me because he went to the slums and met Johnny. After losing his ability, Johnny still swaggered around relying on his physique and said, "My ability used to be really awesome. If I told you, you'd be scared to death. It's a pity that 2 crazy women stole it." This was the first time Henry had heard that abilities could disappear since he started participating in the research, so he asked around all the way and found the Black Factory, and after witnessing me defeat Blackie and Whitey, he decided to get close to me first and figure out the situation. I got out of Henry's arms and silently distanced myself from him. "So, during this time, what have you figured out?" There was silence for a few seconds behind me. Henry's voice came, "You can take away other people's abilities and store them in your body, and there's no upper limit. So, if I take away everyone's abilities, there will be no such thing as abilities in this world, and the world can go back to the way it was." Henry nodded. "I just thought it was a bit funny, but in that case, I'll be the only one in the world with abilities. What are you going to do with me, this container? You don't think that I, who will be invincible at that time, will obediently go to my death, do you?" "No." Henry frowned slightly. "We have developed a genetic chamber that can help you eliminate your abilities through external force. Since you can directly eliminate the abilities, why come to me? There's only one genetic chamber, but we don't have time left." I was stunned. "What do you mean, according to the prediction? The real apocalypse will come in a month." I was a bit slow to react, but I'm just one person. Even if I'm willing, I can't take away all the abilities in a month by going after them one by one. Henry grabbed my wrist. "If you have my ability, you can. What's the difference between becoming 2 people?" Henry smiled bitterly. "Who said I can only create 2 clones?" In the next minute, I watched as the Henry in the room multiplied from 1 to 2. from 2 to 4. Until the room was filled with Henry's, I was petrified. Goodness, it turns out his clones can multiply further, even copy-pasting isn't as fast as him, he alone is like an army, this is simply extremely powerful, all the Henrys in the room said at the same time, and that genetic chamber that can eliminate abilities has risks. My head was a bit dizzy. What do you mean? He paused. You have an 80% probability of dying, 13, for the next 2 days. I didn't mention this matter at all. As if it had never happened, I even took the time to go to the slums. The place where I used to live was near the garbage dump. This time when I went there, I met an old neighbor, Grandpa George, whose ability was to make flowers bloom. Since this ability wasn't very useful, like me, he had been struggling to make a living. Later, when I became powerful, I helped him find a place to live. Grandpa George was very happy to see me again. Haven't seen you for a long time. I sat down beside him as if nothing had happened and said, yeah, I've been really busy before. Why are you back at the garbage dump? Just came to take a look, he said, turning to look at the stinking garbage dump, as if he could see its former appearance through the garbage. Here used to be a botanical garden, not a garbage dump. I took care of it. I'm really good at taking care of flowers and plants. No matter how precious the flowers and plants are, I can take good care of them. At that time, there were a lot of people coming to the botanical garden every day. They took photos in the garden and drank flower tea. Many people praised my flower tea for being delicious. It's a pity you never got to taste it. Later, probably because I had too much contact with flowers and plants, the ability I awakened was to make flowers bloom. But without healthy soil and water sources, how can flowers survive? I listened in silence. Looking at the few people walking around sporadically on the street, their faces were heavy, and none of them were smiling. I could faintly hear the piercing barks of mutated animals on the outskirts of the slums. I wonder how much longer it will last. Grandpa George said this out of the blue. I wasn't sure if he was talking about the world or himself, until the gray sun was about to set. I was about to leave. Grandpa George stopped me. Wait a moment. I turned around to look. I saw him put his hands together, muttering something. When he opened his hands again, he was holding a sunflower in his palm. Although it will wither by tomorrow morning, at least you can see the color of life. I took it and smiled. Thank you, Grandpa. I hope I'll have the chance to taste your flower tea in the botanical garden someday. He shook his head and didn't say anything. When I turned to leave, I heard him sigh. There's no future anymore. I went back and gave the flower to Anna. She was very happy. There used to be a patch of sunflowers in front of my house. Do you remember? The dog I raised really liked to sleep among the flowers. As she spoke, her voice became lower and lower. It's really beautiful. 14. What I didn't know was that during the time when I didn't give Henry an answer, the other people involved in the secret research were going crazy with anxiety. Has Jill still not agreed? Except for Henry, he didn't go to the research lab every day either. Instead, he just did some odd jobs in the factory I managed. When asked, he said he was waiting, but with the apocalypse approaching, no one can afford to wait, so they had to come and urge me again. I advise you to be cautious. If you're not completely sure, don't give your ability to her. Their concerns were well-founded. What if I took Henry's ability and then refused to have my abilities eliminated? With so many abilities in my possession and the ability to split, wouldn't I be able to take revenge on society in no time? Henry smiled self-deprecatingly. In today's society, what's the difference between taking revenge or not? The person was left speechless. During this time, I either wandered around in the slums or used various abilities to show off my skills and kill the mutated animals that were going crazy and hurting people. All my behavior seemed to indicate that I was indulging in the superiority brought by my abilities and was unwilling to become ordinary again. But Henry was very certain. The reason she's like this is that she has already made up her mind. 15. Before going to find Henry, I went to find Anna first. I want an ability. After hearing what I said, Anna didn't even look up. Which one do you have your eye on? Let's go and get it. Yours. She was taken aback for a moment. I smiled. This time, I need your ability. I have to take away Anna's and Henry's abilities so that I can collect all the abilities in the world in the shortest time and then enter the genetic chamber to have them destroyed. Before I even finished explaining the reason, Anna gave herself a hit. If you want it, I'll give it to you. My eyes became a bit moist. Anna said she had 2 things to tell me. First, you have to succeed. I don't want to be buried with the name John. Second, she touched my face. If you want my ability, you have to get beaten. Don't worry, I'll be gentle. Me? Wait a minute, what's with that eager look in your eyes? 16. After taking away Henry's ability, he saw me off to the helicopter. There's someone in a certain country who has the ability to teleport through space. I need to use his ability to complete this difficult ability recovery plan. The sand and dust blew into my eyes, and I turned my head away without looking at him. Thanks. What are you thanking me for? His voice was a bit hoarse. I forced a smile and pretended to be relaxed. Thanks to you, I at least have some happy memories. I haven't told this to anyone else, actually. I paused. I'm a bit scared. I'm afraid of the destruction of the world, afraid that I won't be able to complete the task. And even more afraid that after I collect all the abilities, I'll die in the genetic chamber. I'm afraid that the brand new world will have everything I'm looking forward to, except me, but I can't not do it. After all, the things and people I love are all waiting for me to save them. I'm really amazing, just like a superhero. I didn't hesitate any longer and was about to step into the plane when I was suddenly grabbed by someone. The next second, Henry bent down and kissed me. In the midst of the swirling sand and dust, we kissed before the apocalypse. Finally, he said, I'll be waiting for you. 17. 5 years later, it's the 5th year since the start of the new era, and society has resumed its operation. Because there were so many messes to deal with, I worked overtime in the building for another day, remembering what I said before about wanting to work overtime. I really want to punch myself to death. On my way home from work, a couple was playing with their 5-year-old grandson. They were telling him a story. 5 years ago, during the apocalypse, everyone had abilities and was really impressive, but the world was also heading towards destruction. Suddenly, one day, everyone's abilities were taken away by one person. Since then, the world has returned to normal. The older child immediately answered, I know, that's a superhero. I couldn't help but laugh. The child stared at me. What are you laughing at? I've seen her. You've seen her, then tell me what she looks like. My ability turned out to be taking away John's ability. I choked up. At that time, I thought I wouldn't be able to survive, and I was always a bit unwilling. On the way to recover the abilities, I used my ability to give myself a peerless beauty and a perfect figure, and admired myself for a while. I didn't expect that's what the child saw. He probably never dreamed that. The ferry back then is now the office worker full of the smell of work standing in front of him. I let out a helpless sigh. I turned my head and saw Henry standing beside the car, wearing a coat and opening his arms towards me. I smiled and threw myself into his arms. Why are you here? Do I need a reason to pick up my wife from work? Also, I have something for you. I got in the car, and he took out a medal from the back seat. It said, Human Hero, on it. Although your contribution can't be made public, this is a medal secretly awarded to you by the country. I stroked the medal and smiled. Then I'll hang it on the headboard of our bed. I can brag about it for the rest of my life. He kissed the corner of my mouth. Shall we go see the sunrise tomorrow? No, I've made an appointment with Anna to buy flowers. Her yard has been repaired, and we've agreed to help her plant sunflowers. What about the day after tomorrow? Also no. I have to go to the botanical garden. Grandpa George specially saved a pack of his flower tea for me. Henry smiled bitterly. My wife is really busy. He stroked my hair, turned the steering wheel, and drove into the traffic. The setting sun ahead was bright and shining with golden light. It doesn't matter. We have a lot of time in the future. Story 2. Before the end of the world. My mother-in-law was making videos on a popular platform, showing off the supplies we had hoarded at home from every angle, even including the location. When the apocalypse arrived, my home was ravaged by starving, desperate refugees. My daughter and I were tragically killed by these refugees. Given a second chance, before the end of the world approached, I prudently sent my mother-in-law back to her hometown. I also stocked up on food and supplies for her. Since you love sharing so much, you might as well die alone. Waking up from a nightmare during a hot day with the air conditioning on, I was covered in a cold sweat. I had dreamed of an apocalyptic world facing extreme cold, with a shortage of food and clothing. I own a supermarket and had heard some rumors, so I skeptically stocked up on supplies before the extreme cold hit, which turned out to be a lifesaver during the apocalypse. However, in the dream, because my mother-in-law loves to show off everything on social media, even trivial matters, our home supplies caught the attention of some evildoers. A short video by my mother-in-law brought deadly consequences to our family. The dream was so vivid, I could feel the gruesome pain of being cut by a blunt knife and the heart-wrenching agony of watching my young daughter being killed. It felt so real that I was bewildered. unable to believe it was just a dream. After waking from the nightmare, I couldn't go back to sleep. I looked at my young daughter, peacefully asleep, and gently tucked her in before leaving the bedroom. Passing by my mother-in-law's room, I noticed her door slightly ajar, light from her phone screen spilling through the crack. It was late at night, and she was still tirelessly scrolling through TikTok. She always does this. Just yesterday, she was complaining to her son about recent headaches and eye pain. My husband Nolan asked me to take her to the doctor for medication, and today, feeling slightly better, she started her antics again. I went to the living room to get some water. Scrolling through Facebook on my phone, when I came across a post about how to view this year's unusual weather, I paused. The post mentioned that after an extremely hot summer would come extreme cold, advising everyone to stock up on supplies to survive the harsh conditions. People in the comments were mocking him. I clicked on the poster's profile, which was empty, and the IP address displayed as unknown. Suddenly, loud music burst from the room, annoyed. I walked towards my mother-in-law's bedroom. I saw her sitting up in bed, fumbling to turn off her phone. Mom, haven't I told you many times to keep the noise down at night? Tessa needs to sleep. My mother-in-law sheepishly touched her nose. I accidentally fell asleep, and my phone fell off the bed, pulling out the earphones. She always does things that raise one's blood pressure, seemingly by accident. Yet, she handles her mistakes so well that it's hard to reprimand her. But behind the scenes, she complains to her son about how hard it is for her in this household. Frustrated and dizzy with anger, I felt as if I had experienced this scene before. The next day, the supermarket's purchasing department requested my approval to order a large batch of goods. The list they handed me was almost entirely composed of grains, oils, cereals, and food, as well as blankets and winter clothing. It matched the scenario in my dream. Excitedly, I grabbed an employee. Asking if a major client had come in, the employee confirmed it. Moreover, this client stipulated a condition that since his house was being renovated, he needed to store the goods in our warehouse for an additional half-month. Yes, it was him. In the dream, it was this same client who made a large purchase at our supermarket. Considering that there are only a few major supermarkets in the city, I found it odd. So I started making discreet inquiries within the circle. I found out that this person had placed orders not only with our supermarket but also with others. Stocking up in such large quantities was strange, but surely he couldn't be sourcing from competitors to open his own supermarket. What was even stranger was that many of our suppliers reported being out of stock. Apparently, many factories hadn't even shipped their products before big clients had reserved them all. I sensed something unusual about the situation, so in addition to compiling the customer's purchase order, I mobilized all available resources and stocked up massively, filling the warehouse and even my home. Now, I am still doing the same. I gather resources for the customers, and procure even more supplies than I could have imagined in my dreams. Besides that, I remember the gruesome scene from my dream. If the apocalypse were to come, more important than having supplies would be the ability to protect them. After organizing things in the supermarket, I found a good renovation company and rushed home with the designers and contractors. Tessa was at kindergarten, and only my mother-in-law was at home. When I opened the door, I found her wearing my necklace and jewelry, complemented by my silk hat, making a video on some social media platform. Why wasn't she wearing my clothes? I guess it was because her plump figure couldn't fit into them. She seemed surprised by my unexpected return, greeted me awkwardly, and quickly retreated to her room, leaving aside the awkwardness with my mother-in-law. I discussed my renovation requirements with the designer, focusing on two aspects: the best insulation system for the entire house, and since we had been burglarized before, I wanted a very reliable security system. I told the designer, not skimping on expenses. That cost was no object and I wanted the best of everything. I asked him to present the design drafts first, if satisfied. After my house, I would have him redo the supermarket too. The designer was visibly excited and quickly produced the design drafts within 2 days. After showing the drafts to a knowledgeable friend who approved them, we began construction. My mother-in-law couldn't understand why I would want to renovate the house in the heat of summer. I simply mentioned that the summer was exceptionally hot this year, and I heard it could become very cold in winter. Moreover, I was wary of her possibly betraying me as in my dream, so I suggested that since it was too hot, she should take Tessa to the countryside for the summer break once school was out. The rural summers, with their abundant trees and forests, are surely cooler than the city. With the ongoing renovations, it was a good time for her to go back first. Initially, she was reluctant, but after I gave her 30,000 yuan to see if there was anything she needed to buy for the house, she happily packed her bags and left. What would she need to buy for that house? Nolan, ever the dutiful son, felt guilty for not having moved his parents to the city to enjoy a better life after getting married, fearing they might suffer in the countryside. Thus, in the year he got married, he paid to completely renovate their rural home, equipping it with all modern amenities including a fridge, air conditioning, and a direct drinking water system. Unfortunately, his father didn't enjoy these comforts for long before he passed away. Nolan felt sorry for his mother living alone in the countryside, so he decided to move her to the city, and him, well, since the marriage, the task of caring for his mother-in-law has been left to me. He claims to have projects overseas and hasn't been home for over a year. Nolan works in construction and often travels around, which means we have a long-distance marriage, but previously, no matter where Nolan went, he always thinks of us, my daughter and me, always bringing gifts when he returns home, and spending time with Tessa right away. So, I am somewhat lenient towards my mother-in-law, but now, I'm reflecting on some clues from a dream. After seeing off my mother-in-law, I contacted someone to investigate Nolan. A few days after my mother-in-law left, Nolan called me. He specifically asked about his mom's trip back home. I repeated the same story I had told his mother, and also mentioned that I gave her 30,000 yuan and prepared a truckload of food and supplies for her to take back. His tone shifted from dissatisfaction to satisfaction, which led me to guess that my mother-in-law probably kept all these details from him. To her son, she only mentioned that I asked her to return to her hometown before she left. I thought about it for a long time and finally decided to load up a pickup truck with food and drink and had someone take it back to her hometown. If it was an unintentional oversight in the dream, then this time, I've given her a way out. The house back home is large, even having a basement that stays warm in winter and cool in summer. The woodpile there also fills 2 large rooms. I believe that as long as she doesn't show off and stays low-key at home, these supplies should be enough to help her through the winter, because in the dream, Tessa and I died just before dawn. By then, the national rescue teams were already deployed, saving people along the way and combating marauding villains. During that time, she hid herself in the storage room. The death of Tessa and me bought her time until the rescue arrived. By the way, with so much stuff brought back this time, tell mom to keep it low-key, don't post everything online. It's not the theft I'm afraid of, but the thieves' interest. That was the last lifeline I gave. Alright, I got it. You and your daughter take care too. I'm busy, gotta go now. On the other end of the phone, after asking about his mother, Nolan hastily ended the call, and there I was, holding a photo of him and another woman, looking cozy together, my eyes cold. So this was his, busy with a project abroad. In reality, he was setting up a small family with another woman back in the country. And the woman's visibly pregnant belly indicated she was at least 6 months along. Fine, very fine indeed. After returning to her hometown, my mother-in-law indeed hadn't changed her ways. She updated her social media frequently. Many relatives and friends from her hometown commented, asking if she had returned. She replied that she came back to escape the summer heat and invited them to visit her home, saying she would return to the city in a few months. People commented on how well prepared her house was with food and drinks, to which she responded with a grin, "My son is filial." In short, my mother-in-law was living quite comfortably back in her hometown. Nolan did call a few times, urging me to clean up the house and bring Tessa back sooner to keep the old lady from feeling lonely. Lonely? Hardly. I forwarded Nolan a video from my mother-in-law's TikTok. In the video, she was either dancing in new clothes for a selfie, or she was surrounded by relatives, chattering away in her house, with a special close-up of the standing air conditioner, or she was displaying the goods I sent, picking out the expensive ones to open and show off while eating. Mom is indeed better off back home, with company. Look how happy she is. Nolan did not reply to me for a long time after watching. Eventually, he only responded, "Mom is old. I'm not comfortable with her being alone at home, but remember to come back soon." For the first 30 years, he never said a word. After getting married, he suddenly became the perfect filial son. It didn't matter, it was only for a few days anyway. I verbally agreed, alright. I also asked Nolan when the project would be finished and when he would return to the country. Suddenly, he fell silent, and during that hesitant gap, the sound of a woman's low moan came through the phone. My fingernails dug into my palm, causing me real pain. I ignored the unusual sounds from the other end of the phone and asked him again when he would return. This time, he spoke more slowly, gently saying, "Soon, soon." I said okay, we would finalize the car purchase when he got back. Nolan had been wanting to change cars, but didn't have enough cash on hand and had hinted that I should pay for it. Remembering this, he quickly agreed, saying he would be back soon. Good, come back soon. Deadbeat man, in this life, I will also make you pay a price. As the extremely cold weather approached, I paid extra to have the renovation workers speed up. I personally supervised the installation of reinforced thick steel plate insulation layers, making sure there was no skimping on materials. I also chose several structurally solid locations in the supermarket warehouse for heavy-duty use, and had the designer provide me with the blueprints. The renovations were quickly arranged. I planned the supermarket renovation to create a safe haven for the employees, hoping everyone would safely survive this disaster. Due to the extreme heat this year, Tessa's kindergarten started summer vacation early. By this time, my house had been renovated. I moved into our safe house with Tessa. I counted the days. There was only one day left until the temperature drop. Unexpectedly, at this critical moment, my mother-in-law came to town. On the same day, Nolan also returned. He brought with him a pregnant woman with a noticeable belly. My mother-in-law arrived first. When she returned, it was unprecedented. I saw her carrying a large bag of items. You should know, despite her many trips to the city, she had never brought anything to our house before. Even the first time Nolan brought her to stay in the city, she came with absolutely nothing, not even a change of clothes, and eagerly expected me to buy them. So today's scenario was truly out of the ordinary for her. She put the stuff in the living room and then went straight back out. When she came back in, she was dragging a suitcase and a large woven bag, followed by a man and a woman. They looked somewhat familiar. I hadn't recalled which relatives they were when the woman behind started greeting me warmly. "Ah, Nolan's wife, long time no see, you've gotten even prettier." Hearing her thick local accent and seeing her exaggeratedly ingratiating expression, I suddenly remembered seeing this woman when Nolan and I got married. What struck me was at the wedding toast, she gave a long speech and then complained that the red envelope I gave was not enough. She directly grabbed a handful from the gift tray. At that time, I had asked Nolan who she was, and he mentioned she was some distant relative from his mother's side, and told me not to mind it. So what was the situation with her visit today? It wasn't until my mother-in-law asked everyone to sit down and started explaining with a pleasant demeanor that I understood. The woman before me is a distant cousin by marriage of my mother-in-law, indeed referred to as my aunt by marriage. The man is her husband. They came to the city this time to seek medical treatment. The issue isn't too severe. Recently, my uncle by marriage has been experiencing chest pains, coughing, and dizziness. The local doctor's medication didn't help, so it was recommended that they visit a larger hospital. Oh dear, Nolan's wife, you wouldn't believe how much we owe to your mother. She's so kind-hearted. When she heard that my old man should visit a big hospital, she brought us here without a second thought. Your family is full of good people, big sister. You truly have the heart of a saint. My family and I will remember your kindness for a lifetime. Aunt Nolan kept on praising incessantly, as if compliments cost her nothing. My mother-in-law was already floating on cloud nine. It wasn't until she noticed my puzzled expression that she remembered she hadn't mentioned this to me. She was a bit embarrassed. Touching her nose, she explained to me, "Your uncle by marriage has symptoms similar to what I had before, constantly coughing." I thought, since the doctor you took me to was so good, why not let them see him too? When the time comes, you just make the arrangements in advance. Turning to Aunt Nolan, she said, "I'm telling you, getting an appointment with Dr. Kong is quite difficult, even here in the city. It's usually only officials and the wealthy who can get a slot. If it weren't for our connections, you wouldn't even know which direction to find his clinic." I was absolutely mortified by my mother-in-law's shamelessness and vanity. Yes, she knew how hard it was to get an appointment with Dr. Kong. Even initially, to secure an appointment with him, I had to leverage connections and spend money. I had told her how difficult it was, but now, not only did it become a topic for her to boast about, but she also unabashedly boasted and generated new business for me with every word she spoke. "All right then, Mom, how did you know I recently booked a follow-up with Dr. Kong for you?" My mother-in-law looked puzzled. I continued, "About your lung issue. Although Dr. Kong cured it, he also advised me to bring you for regular checkups to prevent a relapse, which could be much worse and unresponsive to medication, Mom." You know how difficult it is to get an appointment with Dr. Kong, and we need to book months in advance. But obviously, the situation with Uncle by marriage is more urgent. Mom, with your kind heart, you'd surely give up your slot for Uncle by marriage, right? I tossed the question back to my mother-in-law. Her face showed her dilemma. She hadn't expected this twist. She's usually very cautious about her health. However, in front of Aunt Nolan and her husband, facing their hopeful looks, she reluctantly nodded her head. Seeing her agreement, Aunt Nolan and her husband were overjoyed and started celebrating. At that moment, Aunt Nolan finally remembered the things she had brought. She opened the bag she carried in, and like presenting a treasure, she handed it to me, Nolan's wife. We didn't have much to bring from our hometown, but we brought some sweet potatoes from our farm. I hope you don't mind. I politely accepted them, with the conversation over. And seeing the large and small bags they brought, it seemed they also planned to stay at our house. My mother-in-law was probably still thinking about her checkup and was distracted. Aunt Nolan also stood there awkwardly, waiting for the host's arrangement. As the host, of course, I graciously arranged for them to stay in the guest room. My mother-in-law's face grew even colder. I suggested Aunt Nolan go downstairs for a walk and planned to take them out for dinner later. Aunt Nolan went downstairs beaming with joy. Left alone in the room with my mother-in-law, she then asked if it was still possible to get another appointment with Dr. Kong, or to tell Aunt Nolan that the appointment couldn't be transferred to someone else. I feigned difficulty in deciding. My mother-in-law is quite shrewd. She has done everything to maintain her image in public, and now she wants me to play the villain. While she was worrying about her own registration, her son returned home. Nolan had told me early in the day that he would be home in the afternoon, but I told Nolan that I would be out in the afternoon taking Tessa to her dance class. So, when the door opened, my mother-in-law and I saw a woman arm in arm with Nolan, entering the house very affectionately. Nolan seemed surprised to see someone in the living room. He quickly pushed the woman away from him, realizing that his action of pushing her away was too obvious. He suspended his hand in midair and then gently supported the woman again. Honey, don't misunderstand. This is Oscar's fiancée, since she's pregnant, and Oscar knew I was returning to the country. He asked me to bring her along to have the baby here. Accompanying Nolan's explanation was a polite greeting from the woman. Hello, sister-in-law. Nolan had kept his affair very secret. Even my mother-in-law didn't know. So, to my mother-in-law. This scene looked like a pregnant woman with ill intentions trying to seduce her beloved eldest son. My mother-in-law did not give the woman a pleasant look. With a stern face, she said that since people had returned to the country, they should go to their respective homes. It's not right for a pregnant woman to follow her son home, even if there's nothing inappropriate. The neighbors' gossip is still a concern. The woman didn't say a word, just stood weakly behind Nolan. Nolan, standing in front of his mother, waved his hand impatiently. Enough, I've flown thousands of miles back home and haven't even had a drink of water yet. Let's talk later. Then he turned to ask me, by the way, honey, didn't you say Tessa was in class? When are you going to pick her up? Oh, right. That reminded me, so I picked up the car keys and left to pick up our daughter. After a while, through the home surveillance, I saw my mother-in-law still nagging. Only when Nolan was sure I had left did he start to lose his temper with his mother. Enough with your crude remarks, stop being sarcastic towards Sylvia. Valerie stared at her son, incredulous. Her usually dutiful son, how could he speak to her like this for a pregnant outsider? Seeing Valerie about to burst into tears and scold her son for being unfilial, Nolan carefully protected Sylvia. If you don't want your grandson in Ruru's belly, go ahead and cry. What? Valerie was still processing the shock, her expression changing multiple times. Nolan helped Sylvia to sit on the sofa and then went to support his mother. Mom, Sylvia isn't Oscar's fiancée, she's actually the mother of your unborn grandson. Mom, you're about to be a grandmother. Valerie was stunned by this sudden joyful news. Ever since I had Tessa, she had been hoping for another grandchild, ideally a boy. Unfortunately, I had no plans for a second child, as I was the main breadwinner of the family, and while she urged for another child, she only did so subtly and never in front of me. Suddenly, with this precious grandson emerging, she was so excited that her hands trembled. Good, good, our family finally has a future, and now I can face your father with pride. Her eyes were tearful. Her look at Sylvia was now filled with immense tenderness. A perfect look of a mother-in-law satisfied with her daughter-in-law. In the surveillance, the three of them looked like a harmonious family. Meanwhile, I had arrived at my new home. a safe house with my parents, where I had picked up Tessa from her dance class. Tessa chattered nonstop about the fun incidents from her class today, making my parents laugh heartily. Yes, having experienced the terror of a great downturn in this life. I called my parents from the neighboring province before the downturn happened. As for the reason, sure, Nolan's mom went back to her hometown. Sometimes work keeps me busy, so I need them to come over during the summer to help take care of the kids. My parents didn't hesitate and packed up to come over right away. Of course, they were stunned when I brought them to the new house. My mom asked, "When did you change houses?" I didn't even know about it. I simply explained that I hadn't been sleeping well in the old place, and since the housing prices had dropped this year, I took the opportunity to buy a new one to improve our living conditions. Indeed, that was the case. Housing prices had plummeted this year, and I had already planned to buy a new house anyway. I just hadn't discussed this plan with Nolan, and then all these things happened recently. I definitely won't tell Nolan now. I told Nolan that there was an issue at the supermarket that I needed to handle immediately, and I took Tessa with me. As for dinner, he might need to take his mom and his cousin and their spouses out to eat. Nolan seemed hesitant, repeatedly asking me over the phone if I really couldn't make it for dinner. However, from the surveillance, I could see his expression, visibly relieved. I confirmed that I indeed wouldn't be free in the evening, and asked him to take good care of his cousin. His cousin's husband, and his friend's fiancé. Tomorrow we'll see a drastic drop in temperature. I've checked the home's protection system and our emergency supplies, and we have enough to last until the rescue team arrives. To avoid any issues, I've told my parents to stay indoors starting tonight. I ordered hot pot delivery from a local restaurant and enjoyed it with the air conditioning on. I also kept Nolan's surveillance feed on, watching the drama unfold as I ate. Why was there still a show to watch at home during mealtime? It was somewhat amusing. After Nolan's cousin and her spouse went out for a walk and came back, Valerie suddenly snapped out of her joy of having a new grandchild. She remembered that the relatives she brought to the city had taken her appointment slot for a follow-up doctor's visit. Nolan had already gotten ready to take everyone out for dinner, but suddenly, Valerie's face fell, complaining of dizziness and chest tightness, and didn't want to go out. Nolan looked troubled, but his cousin was quick to notice. Since the host didn't want to go out, she considerately suggested that they could cook a pot of sweet potato rice using fresh sweet potatoes she brought from her hometown. As for the vegetables, the cousin mentioned there were some in the fridge, and since Nolan's mom wasn't feeling well, she volunteered to prepare dinner, despite Valerie's obvious displeasure. Nolan's cousin still managed to prepare a full table of dishes and set everything up for dinner. I glanced at the dining table and, oh well, it looked like the fridge was cleared out. Even the 2 packs of dairy drinks left by Tessa were opened and placed on the dining table. Congratulations to them. Their food storage before the extreme cold, 0. None of the family had breakfast, and with the heavy rain outside, it was hard to order takeout. Look, even the dog knows it's pouring out there. But his urging for me to come home was just so I could bring back food for his family. I agreed. After hanging up the phone, my Tessa was sitting by the window watching the rain, then quietly looking at me. I asked her if she would be sad without her dad. Tessa came over and hugged me. I just want mom to be with me forever. Then, I had no more reservations. 15, half an hour later, the temperature suddenly dropped to 15 degrees. This unusual temperature spike was trending online, with everyone discussing it. Just then, the downpour briefly paused, and during this break, cars on the roads were speeding away. Nolan called me again, his tone slightly impatient, asking where I was. I said I was on the road. The rain had been too heavy, and I had waited for a long time. He responded okay, with a tone of complaint, adding that 3 elderly people and a pregnant woman at home were all waiting for me to bring back food. The man on the phone felt like a stranger to me. He wasn't always like this. We once had a loving marriage, harmonious as a well-tuned orchestra. In the middle of the night when I was thirsty, he would get out of bed to get me a cup of warm water, not wanting me to take an extra step. If I had a small cut on my hand, he would fret over it for half a day, wishing he could do everything for me. But now, I dare not think too deeply, whether it was a shift in affection or was it all pretense from the start. Gathering my thoughts, since it's come to this, there's nothing more to say. I watched Nolan, still lying on the sofa playing video games on the monitor screen. If he had any initiative, he would have gone to the store at the entrance of the residential area by now. Sadly, he pinned all his hopes on me, who was determined not to return to that home. Sylvia seemed hungry too. She picked up the last small bottle of milk drink on the table and finished it in a few gulps. 16. The wind gradually stopped. But the outdoor temperature felt even lower. Looking down, I saw frost on the leaves of the trees in the neighborhood. I turned on all the air conditioners in the house, setting them to the highest temperature, mainly using the electricity while it was still available. In another day, I expected all public power systems would collapse, and then we'd have to switch to the backup power supply. Nolan and the others might have finally realized something was wrong. Everyone in the house looked confused and anxious. Nolan put on thick clothes, and as he walked to the door, he called me. Valerie stopped him. Son, the weather is too abnormal. It's so cold. Why go outside? Vivian and Tessa haven't come back yet. I'm going down to pick them up and buy some food. Valerie grabbed him. Oh, it's so cold outside. Vivian is driving herself. You don't need to go pick her up. On the other hand, Sylvia also held him back, with the weather so abnormal. People are scared. You should stay and keep us company. In the distance, an aunt looked at the family with a disdainful expression. I picked up the phone just in time. Everyone on the other end fell silent. Nolan asked me, "Where are you now?" I tried to sound anxious. "Still on the road. This terrible weather. The roads are icy. I can only drive slowly." Nolan said, "Okay, then drive carefully." "Sure." Here's the translated text. The phone suddenly cut off. In the surveillance footage, Sylvia grabbed his phone and hung up. "What are you doing?" Nolan looked helplessly at Sylvia. "What else were you going to say? Were you feeling sorry for her, telling her not to bring buns on her way back? But look, it's freezing outside. It's good enough that she can make it back at all. Stopping to buy stuff on the way is indeed dangerous," Nolan patiently explained, hoping Sylvia would understand. "Besides, if you're hungry, I can just go down to the convenience store right now. Isn't that faster?" But Sylvia was not having it. "Are you saying you're not worried about her? What's there to eat at the convenience store? Instant noodles, or bread with preservatives? You'd rather your son eat junk food than have her walk a few more steps, right?" Sylvia began to sob. Nolan quickly embraced her to comfort her. All right, honey, I won't go down. We'll just wait for the buns. Don't cry. Take care of the baby." Unfortunately, the buns were never to come. There were plenty of large icicles, though. 17. Snow began to drift outside the house. It started with light snow, which gradually turned into heavy, feather-like flakes. Nolan kept calling my phone over and over. Too bad I had turned on airplane mode. He couldn't get through. The expressions of the people inside the house shifted from initial confusion to panic. Nolan's family finally stopped relying on me. I saw Nolan putting on a thick down jacket and snow boots, preparing to go down to the convenience store to buy some food. Before this, Valerie had wanted her cousin-in-law to go down, but under the harsh external conditions, the cousin-in-law, who had lovingly cooked dinner the night before, was nowhere to be found. In the face of disaster, preserving one's own life is the most important. The cousin-in-law said her husband was already coughing and feared that the freezing weather outside would prevent him from returning if he went out. She also complained of dizziness and leg pain herself. Under the circumstances, Valerie, despite her best efforts, couldn't persuade anyone. After much pulling and tugging between the two groups, they decided that Nolan, the younger man, should go down to buy supplies. The wind and snow blew into the stairwell, and the house's door was frozen shut. They struggled for a long time to open it. When the door finally opened, the blizzard rushed in, and the few people inside, shivering, pushed Nolan out and quickly shut the door. The people in the surveillance footage sat obediently on the sofa, waiting for Nolan to return with food. Meanwhile, Valerie covered her growling stomach while her aunt gave her a contemptuous look. Outside was a blizzard. Inside were several hungry people. Suddenly, the aroma of barbecued meat filled the air. It turned out that Tessa was holding a piece of fresh, green lettuce wrapped around a golden, crispy piece of barbecued meat, which she brought to my lips. I took a bite. The meat was crispy on the outside and tender on the inside, the oil and meat flavors blending perfectly with the peppery hot sauce and garlic slices, creating a burst of happiness in my mouth, with the fresh lettuce providing a refreshing finish. Tessa proudly told me, "Mom, Grandma cooked the meat. But I wrapped it in the lettuce for you." Her face beamed with pride and cuteness, melting my heart. I finished off the small dish of lettuce-wrapped barbecue that Tessa brought over, praising her for her excellent job. Tessa hopped off to the kitchen to get more from my mom. Outside was a world of ice and snow. Inside was warmth and barbecue. On my phone, I watched as the despicable family went hungry. I felt delighted. 18. Finally, there was movement again in the surveillance footage. A hard banging knock came from outside. Valerie hurried to open the door. Everyone inside stood up, staring at the door with anticipation, but the aunt was the first to sit down, disappointed, because Nolan, with empty hands, hadn't brought anything back. Not only that, the recent storm followed by an unusual drop in temperature prompted the property management to shut down several elevators in our building early to prevent accidents due to extreme weather. As a result, Nolan had to use the stairs to go up and down. We live on the 23rd floor. Seeing Nolan covered in slush and mud, I guessed he must have slipped a few times while climbing the stairs. Nolan mentioned that he had checked several convenience stores in the neighborhood, but they were all closed. With her stomach growling, Valerie finally said something nice about me. If only Vivian were here. Indeed, over the years, she and her mother have gotten used to not having to lift a finger. Nolan often works outside, and even when he is home, he doesn't concern himself with household matters. As for me, I take care of not only our little home but also Nolan's family home, ensuring everything they need is accounted for. If his mother and daughter had ever bought a pack of salt, a bottle of water, paid a property fee, or a parking fee, or had frequent interactions with the convenience store owner or property management, they wouldn't need to make a wasted trip downstairs. A phone call is all it takes to know a lot of information. Even in my Instagram, there was a message sent 3 hours ago from the lady at the convenience store downstairs. Due to extreme weather, convenience store will close in 1 hour, reopening time to be determined. Neighbors who need to pick up packages or shop, please hurry and avoid a wasted trip. Valerie's relatives, the couple she brought with her, were not good people. After seeing Nolan return empty-handed, the aunt completely dropped her facade. She cursed out loud, blaming Valerie for bringing her to the city to die. Back in the countryside, at least they had vegetables in the cellar and grain in the barn. Over the years, because of me and Nolan, Valerie was treated with high regard wherever she went in the village. She was not used to hearing such words. Moreover, the ones cursing her were the same poor relatives from the countryside who had been obsequiously flattering just a day before. Me. A curse, who kindly brought your husband to the city for treatment, who gave up her own appointment for a checkup to let your old man have it. Emma, you should speak with some conscience. Pa, the aunt stopped pretending, her rural elder's combativeness at full force. Valerie, stop your pretense. Everyone in the village knows your son married well, his wife is rich, and your family is living the high life. At this, Nolan's face changed. Don't you see what you are? We've been relatives for decades. Don't you know your own worth? Every time you return to the village, you strut around, looking down on everyone. Think about it. Back when your family was so poor that no one would even bother with you, you couldn't even sell yourself. Seeing the aunt's insults getting dirtier, I quickly muted the surveillance. Goodness, there's also Tessa at home. These are not things for her to hear. But in the blink of an eye, when I looked back at the monitor, they had started to push and shove each other. The aunt and her husband were cursing, and so was Valerie. But Valerie, having lived a pampered life these years, was no match for the aunt and her husband. So now, with Nolan still recovering from climbing stairs, and Sylvia heavily pregnant and indifferent, only Valerie was left fighting a losing battle against the two. Snap! I heard a noise from somewhere, and at the same time, the monitor showed it was offline. The power went out. The temperature outside was too low, damaging some electrical facilities. Fortunately, our house was well insulated, so even now with the power outage, the indoor temperature had not dropped much. 2 days have passed. I can only imagine how tough it has been for Nolan and his family. I'm so bored, but I think life must be hard for them. After all, they have no electricity, no food, and it's cold. It's because of the renovations at home. I had mentioned installing a good insulation system, but I only ended up properly renovating my safe house. As for the old house, I did some minor, almost unnecessary repairs, just to appease Nolan and his mother. While the communication system was still functioning, I sent Nolan a video. It was a video of a bubbling lamb spine hot pot, a pot full of meat, with the broth bubbling and steam rolling out. It was undoubtedly the best comfort in this freezing weather. As soon as I sent the video, Nolan immediately called me. Where are you, honey? Why couldn't I reach your phone earlier? Did you just start cooking the hot pot? Where are you? I'll come to you, Nolan asked me in a rush. It seemed he was really starving. What did you say? The signal is bad. After showing off the lamb spine hot pot, I promptly hung up the call. Then, I ignored the repeated calls from Nolan and enjoyed my meal. What I didn't expect was that besides Nolan, Valerie also kept sending me messages. It was quite funny because during the time it took me to finish my meal, she went from initially demanding to know where I was and accusing me of being selfish and indifferent to her and her son's plight, to later softening her tone and even kindly asking if I was cold. My mother-in-law's change of face was really amusing. I didn't mind the entertainment. Under Valerie's relentless barrage of messages, I only replied once. "Mom, why do you think I wouldn't come back? Don't you know?" I left her to figure out the reason. I watched as Valerie typed back and forth, deleting and apologizing. She admitted she shouldn't have brought relatives from the countryside home without my consent. She also shouldn't have made decisions on her own about asking me to pull strings for medical help for relatives. So look, she was aware of her overstepping behavior. Valerie sent me many messages in a row. Even Nolan was apologizing on behalf of his mother, saying these years had indeed been hard on me, but I didn't reply at all. Eventually, they became desperate. Valerie called me, "Vivian, I've said all I could, and you haven't replied at all. What's your attitude? Even if you don't care about me, your mother-in-law. What about Nolan? Nolan is your husband after all. You may not care about me, but you should care about your husband, right? Where exactly are you? Hurry up and bring us some food. Or at least tell us your location so we can come find you." Clearly, even at this point, Valerie hadn't grasped the situation nor understood her position. "Mom, I've never blamed you, but think about it. What could be the reason that a woman would rather stay outside with her child in the snow than return to that home? You knew." Valerie's mouth ran loose, and with just one comment from me, she felt guilty on behalf of her son. "Vivian, it's not what you think. No need to explain." I decisively cut her off. "Mom, tell Nolan I want a satisfactory explanation. If he provides one, I can forgive and forget, and bring you and Nolan over here. After all, I have enough supplies, food, and heating to support a family of 4. Okay, Valerie continuously promised, saying she would definitely have Nolan give me a satisfactory explanation. Despite preparing myself mentally, I was still shocked by the photo Nolan sent. I never expected him to be so heartless. In the photo, Sylvia, heavily pregnant, lay straight on the icy floor. Her eyes wide open in anger. Blood, bright red, flowed profusely from the back of her head, staining a large area of the floor. The blood on the floor even began to freeze into ice due to the coldness of the room. "My wife, she seduced me. She took advantage when I was drunk. I thought she was you. I was far away in a foreign land at the time, missing you every day." From the mobile phone, Nolan's voice messages played one after another. My parents also saw that photo. They were utterly shocked. If it hadn't been for such a desperate situation, we would never have imagined Nolan could be such a person. After all, in my parents' eyes, Nolan was hardworking, filially dutiful, and responsible. Even his decision to go abroad to a developed country was to earn more money for Tessa, to provide her with a better material life. That's why my parents felt confident entrusting me to Nolan, but who could have known, who could have guessed? It turns out that until pushed to the limit, human nature can hide behind a facade. Even my parents, who had decades of social experience, were mistaken. My parents and I felt a chill of fear. I think, if it weren't for that nightmare, even without this harsh winter ordeal, I would eventually have been completely manipulated by Nolan. Leaving with nothing might have even been the best outcome, wealthy and widowed. That's what he wanted. 2 days later, I finally lost contact with Nolan. I remember that day. Nolan desperately called me on the last 1% of his phone battery. On the other end of the phone, he begged me like a lost dog to forgive him, to save him, but the one who responded wasn't me. Instead, it was the sound of someone breaking into his place. Before his phone battery died, I simply stated, "Nolan, haven't you realized? I never intended to save you from the start." He didn't even have time to curse or wail. Instead, there was the sound of someone smashing him with clubs. I could only hear the dull thuds of the clubs hitting flesh, and Nolan's cries like a stray dog being cornered and beaten in a dead-end alley, and in the faint background, there was Valerie, starving and barely alive, begging those people on her knees. The heavy snow covered everything. I counted the days. Finally, on the 53rd day after the temperature plummeted, the National Rescue Team entered our city. They came to save those who had struggled to survive up to this point. Not many were left. A prolonged calamity had overturned the order that humanity had established over thousands of years. The future living environment was still uncertain, but the emergency ARC system established by the state was a small-scale simulated ecosystem that allowed us to temporarily resume normal life. However, before entering the ARC, a human judgment system that had been established at some unknown time would assess each individual. Meanwhile, the big screens outside the Ark continuously displayed the acts of good and evil by humanity during the days of the calamity. It was then that I saw Nolan and his family again, or rather, I saw their images, on the day the temperature plummeted. Nolan had a falling out with his aunt, leading to a heated argument, on the second day of the cold snap. Nolan, Sylvia, and Valerie plotted to lock his aunt and her husband in a dark, cramped storage room, sealing all the cracks. His aunt and her husband suffocated to death. On the fourth day of the severe cold, the three of them could no longer bear the hunger. Upon opening the storage room and facing the two corpses, a thought crossed my mind. It was also at this time that Nolan received the food video I sent him. He saw me as his last lifeline, but in reality, when I demanded an explanation from him, his initial plan was to usurp my place and then eliminate me, his so-called lifeline. Sylvia had been whispering in his ear, suggesting that my delay in contacting him was a deliberate move to make him suffer. It wasn't hard to guess Sylvia's intentions. She feared that Nolan would take his mother to seek refuge with me, leaving her behind to face death alone. Sylvia's insinuations were quite effective, especially since she was pregnant and the baby's gender had been confirmed, which made Nolan lean towards her side. "We'll play along and trick her into forgiving me," he said. When we really confront her, I won't make it easy for her. She's just a woman with a child. Ultimately, she'll be at my mercy. When the time comes, I'll bring you and our son to live with her, and the four of us will live well together." However, plans often don't keep up with changes. Nolan's mother was even more eager than Nolan to give me a satisfactory explanation. She intentionally distracted Nolan and then struck Sylvia hard from behind. Valerie explained to Nolan, "If you were planning to deal with Vivian anyway, why not take care of this woman at the same time? We don't know how much food supply Vivian has, or how long it will last. Son, listen to your mother. A pregnant woman has a big appetite. She won't be of any help and is just a burden. Instead of risking deceiving Vivian, it's better to genuinely deal with this and make Vivian trust us. You're still young, my son. There will be other grandchildren, but right now, it's about us surviving this together." Thus, came the bloody photo Nolan sent to me. It must be said, Nolan was always his mother's favored son, watching his mother kill his mistress and their unborn child, but he never expected that he would ultimately die due to his mother's karma. I remember mentioning how Valerie loved to post videos online. This time, although there were no more supplies at home to show off, she had filmed plenty of videos before. She had showcased our kitchen and storage room from every angle. Every time I filled our home, she would share videos online, showing off how well supplied her home was. She even filmed the large supermarket I owned. She also boasted about how expensive her house was, posting videos with the location tagged and even including the price of the house. What could I do, since she loved to show off, especially when everyone was confined at home due to the blizzard? Of course, I promoted her videos online to increase their reach. So, in these chaotic times, while some sought food, others saw an opportunity to loot wealth. People with ulterior motives simultaneously set their sights on this address. The terrifying scenes from a nightmare played out, but unlike the nightmare, those who came found nothing, became angrier, more violent. All their violent emotions were fully unleashed on Nolan and his mother. The glass ashtray that Valerie had thrown at Sylvia was picked up by these people and used on her. From head to toe, the shattered ashtray was smashed onto them, blurring flesh and blood. Nolan was first crippled by the attackers, then his belly was cut open, and someone reached inside to warm their hands. The scene was too gory. I couldn't bear to watch. I only remember, as they tortured the mother and son, they furiously cursed. "It's all because you fucking posted those videos. Made me come all this way in the snowstorm, and for what? Nothing, I swear. We've never tortured anyone like this before, but you made us come here for nothing." At that moment, Nolan understood the sudden disaster that had struck. I remember telling him countless times before, urging him to remind his mother. I said not to flaunt wealth. I mentioned there were children at home. I said the only man of the house was far abroad. I advised to be cautious and prudent. I said not to expose all our lives on a public social platform. Every time, he just laughed it off. saying his mother was just a rural old lady with this one hobby. I thought he was truly filial, but until his death, I saw the intense hatred in his eyes. He was wailing, enduring great torment, even under severe pain. He still cursed his mother's entire family. Oh, he wasn't that filial after all, as I held Tessa, as we walked towards the Ark with my parents. Others were also heading in the same direction. Silence prevailed among us all, but I knew that those who had managed to survive this far into the disaster were no ordinary people. Still waters run deep, perhaps even after entering the Ark, challenges would still await us.